New South Wales is home to some of Australia's most iconic landmarks. Sydney's famous Harbour Bridge frames the majestic sails of the city's opera house. This is the state where passion drove early settlers over the Blue Mountains in search of gold more than a century ago. But for the last 7 decades, that search for gold has revolved around just one mountain. Bathurst is home to the country's most important motor racing real estate. Just over 6 kilometres of public road that draws fans and racers from all over the world. Fast corners, long straights, big drops. It's Australia's answer to Le Mans. This year, the acknowledged champions of that internationally revered racetrack have come to tame our mountain, Mount Panorama. It's an endurance race that will test the mettle of man and machine. For this is the 2011 Armour All Bathurst 12 Hour.
1 minute to the opening of pit exit, 1 minute.
The fuel on, pump on in 30 seconds.
Tander, crunch.
As the red goes out, that will be going.
3, 2, 1, go.
Roger, off now.
After a week-long heat wave across the state of New South Wales, an overnight shower has cooled conditions just nicely for the start of the Armour All Bathurst 12 Hour. Hi everybody, I'm Greg Rust. Welcome to our coverage. We're at Mount Panorama Bathurst, not too long now before the start of this gruelling endurance race, which is fast approaching its 10th anniversary. But for 2011, the event takes on a different look and feel, with organisers allowing some stunning new cars to compete. And that's generated interest among European manufacturers and lured some international drivers back to the mountain. To set the scene, we go to the first of our reporters. Here's Chad Nailon.
The big change to the Armour All 12 Hour this year is the addition of the stylish yet speedy GT production cars. Now, the change of the rules to allow these FIA spec races has seen a return to the mountain from such big names as Ferrari, Mosler and Audi. Now, they'll be sharing the 6.2 kilometre circuit with the showroom warriors we're used to seeing at this event, which means, Briony Ingerson, that those closing speeds on slower cars will be something that these amazing machines will have to watch out for.
The event again features a star-studded lineup of drivers from both here and overseas. But in Australia, well, they don't come much bigger than this guy, the modern-day king of the mountain, Craig Lowndes. The field also features V8 supercar drivers, rally aces and production car champions.
As always, there'll be plenty of pit stops across the course of 12 hours. We'll have all of that action covered for you with Grant Boyden, who's got some interesting new angles this year.
We certainly do. Now, you might think it's just a little bit early for me to be wearing sunglasses, but I'm doing so for a very good reason. Not only will we have our cameras out on the circuit, our cameras in pit lane and our onboards, but these glasses are actually a camera as well. During the race, we'll bring you all of the action from pit crew members as they change tyres, refuelers, team managers, even myself. And it's all designed to give you the best seat in the house.
Thanks, Grant. We welcome Garth Tander to the commentary box as we take a closer look at this amazing piece of racing real estate.
Mount Panorama, we all know it and we all love it, and there's a few new guys here that are going to learn it over the course of the next 12 hours. A few key areas to keep an eye out: Reed Park and McPhillamy Park across the top of the mountain. Lots of speed across there in these GT3 cars. Plenty of things to keep an eye on.
At its highest point, it's 862 metres above sea level. Quite a significant amount of elevation change at Mount Panorama. This is what it's like at speed with Craig Lowndes.
Thanks, Rusty. Here comes a lap of Bathurst in an Audi. Quite nice. Vastly different to what I'm used to. It's got ABS, stability control, which I need a lot of that at the moment, but the car is quite nice. It's got good sense of gravity, a lot of downforce. Doesn't quite have the horsepower. So as you come up down Mountain Straight, going into turn 2, back down the gears. Well, and I forgot to tell you, it's got some great things called paddle shift. So it's quite nice. Just got to stay away from the curbs, coming up into the cutting, catching up on the back of a all-wheel drive Mitsubishi. The one thing that I've just got to keep my head around is the, as I go past now, took a little bit, is the closing speeds between ourselves and the cars in front. Coming down into the grid. This is where the car is absolutely unbelievably good. Got so much more downforce than a V8 supercar, sorry Garth, but across the top here, going into Skyline, with the ABS, just got so much confidence going over here, down into the dipper, and then you get down through the dipper, there it is, and hold it flat. Everything else takes care of itself. Traction, coming down to Forest Elbow, and again, the one thing that's probably the weakness of this car is its horsepower. Doesn't have a lot of it. Top speed down here, Conrod. We know in a V8 supercar it's about close to 300 kilometres an hour. This is only maxing out at about 270, 273. So it's an unbelievable feeling across the top. It's a little bit of a pity we don't have our grunt coming down into here. So really for us, it's a great car to drive. Down into the chase. Down that paddle shift, hook her in, look at that. Stability control takes over. So nice to drive. Coming down to the last corner of the track, of course Bathurst itself. As you know, Garth, it's our favourite, it's our grand final. And here's a lap of Bathurst in an Audi.
Being here at Bathurst for the 12-hour is like being part of a real-life game of Gran Turismo. There are so many different kinds of cars from a whole host of different marques all at the one race here at our version of Trial Mountain. Now, Xbox or not, if you put this race-bred Porsche against this street-friendly BMW, there is no doubt who would win. So the field is broken into 5 different classes to keep it fair. Here this weekend, classes D and E are the production cars that we saw run alone in last year's event, with the more powerful performance vehicles running in D opposed to the smaller cars in E. They compete in virtual showroom trim, however there are some modifications. Visually, the major changes appear to be inside the car, with all those road-going luxuries removed to save on weight, plus, of course, the added roll cage for safety. But there are a number of changes that have also been added for performance reasons, such as, well, stiffer suspension, brake ducts, as well as performance exhaust. Now in the production classes, we have slick tyres. Well, they're outlawed, so instead we run on this grooved R-Spec tyre. It's a bit of a hybrid between race and road rubber. The GTs are race-bred road cars, and their 3 classes include Class C, which is for virtually stock GT cars, B, the class for older spec races, and A, which is for FIA-approved machines that are at home racing on European tracks such as Le Mans. Despite being a full-blown race car, it's amazing just how many parts on these GTs are stock, with Audi claiming that 54% of the car that pulls up on the grid for the 12-hour can also be found on the car that pulls up at a set of lights. And in case you're wondering, GT translates to Gran Turismo in Italian, so that's where they get their name from.
No, that's not Chad's road car in the background. There's a new format for qualifying this year, an aggregate time made up of the fastest laps of the 3 drivers in each car would sort the grid. With $5 grand up for grabs, competitors went for it. The battle between the production cars was intense. Peter Conroy, Mark Brame and Anthony Robson, quickest, just. And the young guns, Jared McLeod, Ash Walsh and Chaz Mostert took pole in the production performance category. Matt Kingsley, Roger Largo and Darcy Russell, well, they scored pole in the GT Challenge class, while the Nissan of Tony Alford, Mal Rose and Peter Lemus grabbed top spot in GT production. The quickest lap went to the man who's grabbed pole for the last 2 years, Steve Owen, but the combined time of the Porsche he shares with James and Theo Konduras was only good enough for 3rd. Row 2 is all Porsche, with Craig Baird, Tony and Clark Quinn securing 4th. Audi locked out the front row. The Internationals, though, missing out on P1 by only 3/10. It was the green and gold entry of Craig Lowndes, Mark Eddy and Warren Luff that took the Armour All Pole Award. Warren Luff recording the fastest lap of the trio, a scorching 2-minute 9.63. Stick around, we'll go racing right after the break. The weather forecast here at Mount Panorama Bathurst as we welcome you back doesn't look good. It's going to be a massive challenge for the drivers and crews throughout the day with some intermittent rain forecast. Cars set off on their sighting lap. It will be a rolling start for the Armour All 12-hour. Craig Lowndes is at the wheel of the green and gold entry, and Mark Bassang is heading up the international driver lineup. He will start that particular car as we get ready to take a look at the full grid for the 2011 race for you. Audi has locked out the front row. They have taken the $5,000 pole award and donated it, incidentally, to the Queensland Flood Relief Appeal. All Porsche row 2. Watch for David Reynolds there out of position 5.
David Wall, the Australian GT champion out of grid 6, as we come down through the field, now head into some of the class cars, and keep an eye on the Evos and the WRXs. These four-wheel drive cars, although only class cars, will charge through all day.
Yeah, Lee Burgess, Damien Flack and Neil McFadden really keeping the pressure on the pole-sitting production car. That'll be a fantastic battle throughout the day. So we roll down toward the start. Craig Baird, as you can see, peeling off into pit lane. We are told from the VIP crew this is all part of a plan, so we'll hopefully get Grant on the spot to get an update there. But Lowndes will lead the field away. Wonderful sight. Early morning here, sun rising at the mountain. And Lowndes will lead them away. There's the green. Basang right beside him. He set some impressive laps across the weekend, and watch for his young teammate throughout the day as well, young Christopher Meese, who's settled into the job very well. So here's the VIP entry. Craig collared us this morning and said, hey, don't worry about this. We're going to go out of sequence, but that could really help us come the end of the day.
Yeah, certainly not something you're used to seeing in Australian racing, but from a strategy point of view, those guys have got to do 10 pit stops of 90 seconds duration. So they're going to sit there for 90 seconds straight off the bat, get out of sequence for the rest of the field, and then hopefully charge through as the race progresses.
Boy, it's busy like this, isn't it? Lights ablaze for some of them, sun starting to rise, but it's nice cool conditions, particularly for the Evo cars that will thrive in this sort of temperature.
Magic time of the day to be driving around Mount Panorama as the sun comes up. Very, very cool. The track is awesomely quick in the early morning, and the turbo cars, the Evos and the WRXs, will be loving that cold air.
Dean Grant has taken the start in the Procon Developments Mosler there, the MT900. Beautiful 7-litre V8 engine that you often find in the hand-built engine, we should point out too, in the Corvettes. We jump aboard Hector Lester's Ferrari, one of two of the beautiful 430 GT3s in the field.
And these things scream. Now, you wouldn't think listening to these engines they'd last 12 hours, but obviously Ferrari been involved with sports car racing and endurance racing for an incredibly long time, and these cars are built to last a distance, as are all GT3 cars. They're actually built for 24-hour racing, so at 12-hour, they're only getting warmed up.
And already putting pressure on the Maranello Motorsport entry. Makes the move at Falcon Elbow, Forest Elbow as we know it. Quick check of the mirror, and then on to the 1.9-kilometre Conrod Straight. Great chance to stretch the legs of the Ferrari. So here's Craig Baird, who started in the VIP Pet Foods Porsche. This is the 2010 spec car, the GT3R. Let's go to Grant for more.
Yes, the pit stop strategies have already started. Tony Quinn, you elected to bring the VIP Pet Foods car in nice and early into the pits. What was the thought process there?
Yeah, it was all part of the cunning plan that we have to get a pit stop out of the way early. And we're hoping for a safety car so that we can get back up to the leaders. But we've got to do 3 extra pit stops. So that's one of them out of the way.
I suppose it also helps having nice clean track out there at the moment too in these cool conditions.
Yeah, look, the trouble is that because of the shortage of cars, I don't think there's going to be many safety car laps. So it was part of the grand plan.
Thanks, Tony.
No worries.
This is the Corvette in Class C, the GT4 entry of Paul Freestone, and it's been a tough weekend for them so far. They've been waiting for some new parts to arrive. They've only just fronted at the mountain, and now the crew frantically working to get that car out there. It was not, as you can see, able to take the start. Hopefully they'll be out there and circulating at some point. Lowndes leading the way. Mark Basang starting to put some pressure on. And they really arrived at the mountain, the internationals, with no experience of this venue. On Thursday, Craig Lowndes, who you ride with now, Warren Luff and Mark Eddy took the internationals around, showed them the circuit, and at the same time, the Aussies were trying to milk as much information from the internationals about the car as they could.
Yeah, not a bad guy to have you take around the mountain, Craig Lowndes. He's won the 1000 race 5 times now, so certainly knows his way around there, and that's going to be an interesting battle as the day goes on. The international drivers certainly know the car well, whereas the Aussie guys know the circuit very well. So as the 12 hours progress, each team will learn their respective disciplines through the day, and whoever comes out on top will be the ones that have done the best job learning.
Starting price around $350,000 for one of these beautiful Audi R8 LMS GT3s. 500 horsepower, mid-mounted V10, that's the pass. We have a new race leader. But it's hard to get excited when you consider, Garth, that it's a 12-hour race. Yes, Baseng wants to lead. There's no doubt about that, but there is a lot to play out in this race, particularly as you and I keep looking at that weather radar.
Well, I think Craig would be quite happy to be sitting in second at this stage of the race, to be honest with you. He'll be happy just to let the Mark Baseng do his thing. As we look now on the replay, up the inside at the chase, and I actually think Craig let him go there. Maybe taught him a little bit too much too early about this could be a good passing opportunity, but Baseng cleanly up the inside, and I think Lowndesy's let him go. He'll be happy just to sit behind. You always want to keep an eye on your opposition. The best way to do that is just from behind them.
So we drift a little further back. So another pass from Luke Searle, Alan Simonson and the Hector Lester Ferrari. They've had a great start to the morning, moving by David Wall's Porsche. Wall as Garth detailed. We ride with David Wall now. Wall may try and take that position back now. He's won the Australian GT Championship the last 2 years in a row. The Wall family do a great job with the build on this car, and he gets the job done, heading back into the chase.
You see here, as we see now, I think it's Simonson straight back up the inside of the chase. We're seeing the two strengths and weaknesses of these two cars. Ferrari not as quick down the straight in Conrod, but much more nimble, much better on the brakes, much easier to get up the inside. So that's the great thing about GT3 racing and endurance racing, is each car has its own strength, its own weakness, and that plays out over the duration of the event.
Already we're starting to see some lapping going on of the Class E, the production performance class cars. So this is where it'll get busier for the competitors as the day goes on. The Il Bella Rosso Ferrari in the hands of John Bowe and Tim Lay. A replay of the pass. This is the other car, the red alert entry, in the hands of Alan Simonson.
And again up the inside of the chase. And all that racing, giving each other plenty of room. Here we are in hour one of a 12-hour race. There's no need to get the elbows up this early. You can see there the team at Maranello Motorsport not really all that excited. It's a long day ahead of everyone.
Tim Lane looks like he's just woken up. Maybe he drove here while the opening stint was happening. Of course, he lives up the road in Orange. Look at that great shot from Baseng as he comes back down into the chase.
We'll talk a lot about aerodynamics and how good these Audis are across the top of the mountain. That's a very graphic shot of how the wind moves across the rear wing there. It's still very, very cold, a lot of humidity in the air, and great opportunity to see the rear wing at work there.
Back on board with Craig Lowndes now. A few people have emailed in and been speaking on Twitter about Lowndes. You know, how is he able to do this, to drive for Audi when we see him at the wheel of the Vodafone Commodore throughout the year? Well, the simple answer to that is he's not a Holden contracted driver. He's contracted to the 888 team, so he is free to go and do activities like this, and he's made no secret of the fact that as he continues in his career, he'd like to do endurance events, particularly like Le Mans.
And great team to be trying to hook up with, the Audi team. Obviously, not only to have their GT car program going, but also their outright LMP1 car, the diesel car that has won multiple times at Audi. And if I was Lowndesy, I'd be trying pretty hard to get inside that thing as much as he can. Here
Big incident coming. That's the Mosler. Wowee, the MT900 now. Dean Grant is at the wheel of this car. It looks like you can see there the back left has deflated or something's gone wrong. Let's hope that Dean is okay. Armour All replay.
And this is at the entry to the chase. This is a massive, massive incident. Look at the bodywork flying off the car. And hopefully Dean's okay. Not any light contact with the wall there, but nothing too serious. But that's a big, big incident early in this event.
Let's go to Grant.
I'm down here with Max Twigg, who's just been watching a replay of the incident. Can you tell us from your perspective what went wrong, or was anything said on the radio in the lead up to that?
I've only just, it's obviously just happened. He's all right. He's talking in the car. He's obviously going to get out of the thing now, but a blown right rear, it looks like. Or left rear, I think. Left rear.
Part of the circuit where you don't want tyres letting go.
It's fast there. The car's been lurching a little to the right there at times, but that looks like to me it's a tyre let go. Tragic, mate.
Hard luck, mate.
And Grant, while that's happening, Audi, of course, have taken advantage here and doing their pit stops. There are rules in terms of the sequence with which they can orchestrate or conduct the pit stop, and as you can see, they're frustratingly holding the cars here, but this is all part of the rules when you do one of your compulsory stops. And for these cars and the Porsche of Craig Baird, it's a minimum 12 for the race. They must be from the moment they enter pit lane and the moment they exit. It takes a full 90 seconds. That is the minimum duration that you must be in the lane.
Okay, and during that time you're allowed to do a driver change, you've refueled the car, and obviously change the tyres. Now, they haven't changed the tyres given it's so early in the event, but you can't refuel the car and do the tyres at the same time. So really that makes the pit stops a lot more casual, I guess, to what we're used to seeing in V8 supercar racing, but makes things a lot safer in pit lane also.
So just to recap, if you've joined us, safety car is on circuit as a result of an incident on the entry to the chase involving Dean Grant, the Vodcaro Procon Developments Mosler. You can see that the weather is closing.
Well, Dean, that was an almighty moment. Firstly, are you okay?
Yeah, look, I'm a bit bruised. The left side of the ribs, foot's a bit sore, but look, you know, for a 250 kilometre or 260 kilometre hour crash, it's pretty lucky to be standing up, I think.
Talk us through what happened from your perspective. You say no warning.
Normally you get a bit of warning that the tyre's going down, but no warning at all. And at 260 you got such centrifugal force, we think we picked up a bit of carbon or something, and the pressure was going down, and I thought the wheel had fallen off, but it just the tyre had just blown.
So severe was the incident. Have a look at this. That's the windshield from the Mosler. It's flown off and has landed. Oh, that's an unorthodox way of getting it down, but at least the windshield's been removed from the telegraph pole there, coming down Conrod Straight. So safety car peels in. We're underway with the restart. Second car in the queue there is Nathan Tinkler, the car that he's sharing with Stephen Johnson. Then Dean Herridge from Western Australia in the Maximum Motorsport Subaru. The Tony Alford, Melrose, Donut King Nissan is there. But look, have a go at this, how busy it is at the restart for our front-running GT3 cars.
We'll speak a lot today about the closing speeds of these outright cars versus the class cars, and that's a pretty graphic example. This is the spot where all the team managers hold their breath, where race drivers become real maniacs and try to get to the front in the first 30 seconds. And you see the two Audi boys straight through the field, straight to the front of the class again after their pit stop. So those guys wanted to get through quickly before their opposition.
Fastest lap so far for Craig Lowndes, a 2-minute 11.526, but Baseng has a quicker lap, a 2-minute 11.0219. They're the numbers so far in this stint. And the internationals are leading the way. We saw Warren Luff in pit lane on standby before. Warren's done a pretty good job coming to grips with this car so quickly, and perhaps one of the reasons he's been able to do that in his job as a vehicle tester for Motor Magazine. He's in all sorts of equipment quite regularly. He has to come to grips with it very fast, so he felt quite at home in this car, and he said, boy, it's just a beautiful race car, does everything a driver wants and needs.
I would have thought that Luffy actually would have adapted to the Audi a little easier than Craig, because Craig, obviously, we know for his V8 supercar efforts over the years, whereas Luffy's done a lot more class-type racing, so in different cars more often, and that helps you adapt much quicker. As we're on board now with David Wall and leading the VIP Pet Foods Porsche, which is the latest Porsche to come out of Germany. It's the latest sports car, if you like, and this 2010 car is the first one in Australia.
Baird looking to make the move at Falcon elbow there. Remember that Craig is carrying an extra 100 kilos of ballast in his car. He said to me this morning, he said, you might as well jump on board with your lunch and come for a ride for the entire day. That's the ballast they have to carry under the balance of performance rules.
Must be a big lunch, Rusty, if you're going to be 100 kilos. You see here now, Beardo right up the inside, using the aerodynamic toe down Conrod Straight to try and put a move on David Wall. And remember, Craig Baird's coming back from that early strategy pit stop. So these guys running on two very different strategies. And although the cars look very similar, two very, very different race cars.
Wall running the Cup S version of the GT3, the car that now makes the pass there, Craig Baird. That's the replacement, the newer version, if you like, a little bit more horsepower, 2010 spec car.
Craig was also saying this car has a lot more aerodynamics, a lot more downforce than the Cup S car. So you'd expect as the race goes on that car will get quicker and quicker across the top of the mountain. Clean move up the inside. David saw him coming, gave him plenty of room. So these guys are going to be very gentlemanly for the first, I don't know, I'd say 11 hours, and then the elbows will come up and it'll be on for young and old at the end.
Craig's really on a mission here as we continue to see his progress through the field, making up for all that time. And if we do get some wet weather, he could be well positioned, certainly in these early stints. Look over the shoulder, he knows that the Porsche is there. Great sound of the 430 GT3. And there's Baird, moves by, going down Conrod Straight. Quick tap of the brakes on the entry to
just
the
to
chase.
Make sure he's got a good solid brake pedal before this heavy stop into the chase. And You see on board there with Alan Simonson, who's done 1 million miles in these Ferraris, both here in Australia and over in Europe, knows all about getting the most out of these cars. As you see a replay of Beardo blowing straight past the Ferrari on Conrod Straight. That's surprising, the speed difference between those cars.
So class update for you. Young, Basseng and Meese at the head of the field and leading Class A. Good job by Roger Largo, Kingsley and Russell in Class B. And Mostert, the young guns, Walsh and McLeod in the Racer Industries Class E, doing what the car showed it was so brilliant at last year. There's the outright standings for you. Audi's 1 and 2. Baird has moved back into third. A break and more from the mountain.
The German city of Stuttgart has long been associated with some of motoring's most recognisable names. But in 2006, a new kid on the block rolled off the production line and onto Mercedes and Porsche's streets of Stuttgart. Developed by Audi's performance branch Quattro, the Audi R8 is a 480 horsepower V10 weapon on 18-inch wheels. And here this weekend, the rear-wheel driven mid-engine mounted R8 is taking aim at our mountain. And the team with their finger on the trigger come with serious combat experience, as since their arrival in the motorsport world in 1978, Team Jost have claimed victories at Daytona, Spa and the famed Nürburgring circuit. Oh, and they also conquered the 24-hour Le Mans a lazy 11 times. The team, founded by sports car racer cum team owner Reinhold Jost, has raced under many marks but has truly excelled since forming factory ties with Audi in 1998. Giving the same attention to this race as they would any other means they have rolled in with their world-class setup. And the guy in charge of this 40-man outfit is Ralf Schuttner.
We are working together with Audi. Audi is a car manufacturer. Audi wants to prove that technology. What we are doing is part of all this. They have a philosophy of, if we build cars, we go racing. And of course, it's something that Reinhold Jost built up. And we are definitely trying to keep that spirit because it was so successful. So why should we change it in any way? Victory is always important. When you go racing, you don't go racing for finish third, fourth, fifth or something like that. You want to win. And it would be wrong if I wouldn't say we try to win here.
It's the dream team with the dream car. There's still one thing missing.
And that's a superstar driver. And who better than the current king of the mountain? He owns this place in a V8 supercar. But this weekend, well, he's feeling a little outside his comfort zone.
It's an Audi, it's left-hand drive, it's rear engine, and it's paddle shift. Everything about it's all wrong. This side of the garage knows the track, don't know the car. That side of the garage knows the car, doesn't know the track.
Craig hopes the association with this team doesn't end when the checkered flag falls. He's banking on success here to help realise a long-held motorsport dream.
They're well aware of what I want to do long-term, which is Le Mans 24-hour, and discussions so far have been great. They've been very welcoming. Me coming into the team, I'd love to one day get over there, and if these guys are more than willing, and hopefully that they are, that we can put on a good show this weekend, and then we'll move to the future and see what we can bring.
So some dramas here in the pits for the car, which was running as high as third. Let's go to Grant.
Mike Newton's joining us now to take a look at the Honduras car. Were there any indications that the tyre was going down?
No indications at all. It was we came in to do the pit stop while the pace car was out for that other accident. Theo was behind the pace car, and all of a sudden, as the race progressed, it just went down. He may have travelled across some debris left over from the race because he might have not known exactly where the accident was or where it started down the Conrod Stone.
So that's a right rear tyre. It was a left rear for the Mosler. So Trevor Schumack, the head of Michelin's race operations here in Australia, will be onto that and having a look at whether it in fact was some debris which caused the incident. Great battle in the production cars. And this is the Evo 9 entry, which has been keeping the pressure on the Conroy car. Neil McFadden's the guy, Garth, that's driven a variety of machines. Hasn't, for whatever reason, quite cracked the big league, if you like, but he's been very successful at Gold Star level here in Australia.
Yeah, lots of open wheeler stuff. Australian Formula 4 champion, Formula 3 runner, and won a lot of stuff in open wheelers and trying to get plenty of miles in a tin top around Bathurst.
Grant?
I can tell you guys the Audis will be coming in the next couple of laps or so. We're pretty close to that. We'll catch up with the Michelin tyre techs too, just to confirm that situation. But there is the weather radar, just a little bit of light rain off into the distance, but it's not going to worry the Audi camp. They're going with slicks at this pit stop.
The question will be, I guess, confidence in the car, Garth, because as we see Lowndes make the pass, so it must be sprinkling up there, or you get the feeling we're getting a little bit of light rain at the top of the mountain, and you blokes know what that can be like. So that's just confidence coming to the fore here, isn't it?
And it's knowing where the weather's coming from. You see here the lead Audi, the 8 car, pulling over and letting Lowndes through, and just, I would say, trying to tap into some of Craig's local experience. As we see now, the Corvette that had everything off it, the gearbox out of it, the mufflers off it, everything being repaired, now heading up Mountain Straight for its first run in the race.
Well done. Alan Shepard's car, the Shire Conveyancer BMW, returns to the circuit as well. A car driven by Alan Shepard, Garth Duffy, and Paul Stubber, a guy who's had a huge amount of experience in historic touring cars. As we go back and have a look at the past. Now, that is for second position, so Baird is continuing to march through the field here, and he is now starting to close on our race leader. What's the word from pit lane, Grant?
Well, guys, the Audi team are moving now. It's going to be the 8 car, by all indications. It's going to be the one to make the first pit stop. The refuelers are ready, the tyres are ready, and yes, they have hung off, and they are going to put slicks on for this one. There's not wet enough down here or at the top of the mountain at this stage to go to wet weather tyres. They've been, as I said, consulting with the Michelin tyre techs, and they are ready to go. So any tick of the clock, you'll see the 8 car here in the pits.
So a good opportunity to look at the strengths of the two different cars here. The V10 mid-mounted R8 LMS Audi with Craig Lowndes at the wheel, being chased by the rear engine Boxer 6-cylinder Porsche in the hands of Craig Baird, who has an enormous amount of experience when it comes to racing Porsches.
Racing Porsches, 24-hour racing, 12-hour racing all around the world. See here, Bairdo looking up the inside of the chase. Craig gave him plenty of room. Actually, Craig had a bit of a moment. Bairdo trying to get up the inside of Lowndes, but everyone got out of each other's way. But we're now entering the part of the race that is the team managers and team strategists' worst nightmare. Fuel tanks are getting low. The weather's coming. You want to hang out to see if the rain's going to fall and put wets on it, but at some stage you're going to have to come to the pits and put fuel in.
Armour All replay again as they approach the chase. Just watch the attitude on the Porsche here that Garth was talking about.
Bairdo just locking the rears, but Lowndesy getting out of the way, and everyone lives to fight another day.
All right, now lights go off right on the marks as you would expect. Fuel going in. We're going to get a driver change. Christopher Pies is going to hop into the car. We've got Mark Bessing stepping out now, walking into the garage, looking cool, calm and collected too. Rear tyres now. This has been lightning fast from this team. Rear tyres now on, car fired up. Christopher lights it up, sitting there waiting to go, car about to be dropped, and of course now it's all going, oh, a bit of a problem with the line. It's not caught under the car. In fact, it's caught under the nose cone. It's not going to be an issue. Now he goes out, lost a little bit of time, but not a massive amount.
Good young talent, Christopher Mies. Best results of his career have come in partnership with the Audi. This will be an issue, though, for Hector Lester's Red Alert laser tag Ferrari. That door, the officials will be on to that. That'll require some attention. Second Audi pulls in. Warren Luff standing by the looks of it.
You see here the Audi techs running to the passenger door with a memory stick. What they're doing is actually downloading the car. They'll swap a memory stick, grab the one that's been in the car for the first couple of hours, do a system check, make sure the temperatures are running fine, make sure everything's going okay. So that's actually how they download these cars, just like your regular memory stick.
Good example there of what we were talking about earlier, which is the way in which the pit stop must be orchestrated. You can only do certain things at a given time. So the VIP crew are taking service as well. Fuel first, then they'll take attention as far as tyres are concerned. They'll get it done fairly comfortably and have a little bit of time to spare before the 90 seconds is up. As you can see, there's no rush. It looked like Tony Quinn getting behind the wheel there. And the David Wall entry circulating well. Spoke to Greg Crick yesterday after qualifying. He's part of that outfit with Barton Moore, but he was a little down on himself after qualifying. Amazingly, Greg's driven all kinds of cars over the years, but never raced a Porsche. This is the view from Spycam. Super hot. Temperatures coming off those brakes as the tyre change is executed.
Around 850 degrees on those front brake temperatures as the tyre changer goes in there with his hands to get the job done. You can see why you'd have gloves on.
Now the refueling. process. Right front, this is Beric Linton's BMW. What a shame. Could this be as a result of debris from the Mosler accident earlier on Conrod Straight? This is car 23, now the outright leaders of the race. The Ferrari is out of sequence, having had the door repaired, but the Falcon Property Group entry, Roger Largo, Matt Kingsley and David Russell, they only need to do 9 compulsory pit stops in that particular car, compared to the Audi and the Porsche of the VIP entry, which need to do a minimum of 12. So they lead Class B and are also the outright leaders. Eddie, Lowndes and Luff now head Class A, but here is the outright standings for you. That's a terrific performance. Oyoung, Basseng and Meese now back to 3rd position. The Quinn family and Craig Baird 4th. And Wall, Crick and Moore round out the 5.
The R32 Skyline has a great history here at Bathurst, but this is the first time that we've seen the R35 Skyline. But the 3 guys racing it are no strangers to Enduros.
Bathurst, it's fairly fast. It's got a really long straight where we're used to tracks like the Nürburgring, which is about 25 kilometres a lap, and you get lots of time to rest. The poor old Nissan here is really tough on brakes and fuel economy. It's got a big hill to climb. We're used to endurance races, the 3 of us, Peter, Tony and myself, but look, we're taking on the challenge. We're going to try and get a production-based Nissan GTR to do 12 hours without busting it. That's our challenge this weekend. I've always emphasised to all of us as drivers, bring the car back to give the next bloke a go. Because if you don't bring it back, everyone misses out. You'll probably find here that we might even take a really conservative strategy and get out of the any of the hustle and bustle. But that's the way we've always done things. We want to always be there at the end.
Most of the teams here this weekend have had to add race-ready data acquisition systems, but thankfully the Nissan, that comes as standard.
You haven't got time to look at that on the dash, but obviously we have on the dashboard the major things that we look for, and that's to try and keep the transmission temperature down, engine oil temperature down. And obviously it's going to be a very hot meeting here, so and that's going to be tough on all the cars and the drivers.
From his days in the Australian Rally Championship through to his recent foray into tarmac racing, Dean Herridge's long association with Subaru continues. This year, he's running a WRX STI, built and operated by his family's Maximum Motorsport business.
My history and heritage is obviously, rallying, and particularly gravel rallying, and I love doing that. But look, behind the wheel of a Subaru, racing a car, I don't mind whether it's Targa, or tarmac rallying, gravel, or here at the racetrack. And like I said, I love coming to this place. There's something about it that you hear everyone talk about, what we all grew up with. It's just got this sort of something about it.
Waiting for a safety car to come out now.
Oh, massive impact at the top of the mountain.
Herridge will be hoping for a better result after a nightmare finish last year, crashing out in spectacular fashion late in the race.
It's probably nearly one of my lowest, in motorsport. We were in a great position with the team. They're a private team like most of the people here, and we just got caught out by being unsighted into that corner. I'm here this weekend to try and redeem some of that, and hopefully get some runs back on the board so that when I get back home, my mates don't sledge me quite as much as they have done.
You've been invited to any movie premieres this year?
Not by Eric, no. I think, look, everyone was very, very good about it. Even when Peter hopped out of the car, he was obviously gesturing, and most people have asked us, what was he saying to you? And he was very good about it. Most of my mates just actually think that I'm going to be pounded by the Incredible Hulk at some stage.
He's teaming with fellow West Australian John O'Dowd and Sydney-sider Angus Kennan for this event. But unlike previous years, the team is the lone Subaru WRX in their class and this year's lineup.
We're proud to be flying the Subaru flag, and look, in a lot of ways I think it's fantastic to have the exotics of the motoring world here and being able to compete against them on the same track. It's great.
Lots going on at the moment that you would expect. We've got the 69 car that was going so strong a few moments ago. Here in pit lane, Mike Newton, have a look at this. The fan belt, that's what has put this car out of the race. Bitterly disappointing.
Well, yes, we're bitterly disappointed, but we're not out of the race yet. We'll do a quick repair and we'll go back out. Still a long, long time to go, and anything can happen with all the other cars too.
Thanks, Grant. Good point. It is a long race. You're watching our continuing coverage of the Armour All Bathurst 12-hour. Greg Ruston, Garth Tander with you. Those clouds at the top of the mountain are looming. They look darker, and we are told that rain is approaching. Little bit of sprinkles there on our camera lens just coming down through the dipper as we watch the Craig Lowndes entry. Let's go to Grant.
Unfortunately, bad news. The 44 car of Melrose, Peter Lemus and Tony Alford sitting down here in the pits. What's wrong with the Tone?
Look, we got a transmission error code. Ran it for 2 laps. It seems to be going into neutral. We've downloaded, and the technical term is it's got a P2713 error. The non-technical term is it's stuffed. Yeah, so we'll just put it away today. It's an actuator in the gearbox has failed for some reason, and yeah, that's the end of the day.
First race anywhere in the world for a standard GTR on slicks, raced as a long distance event. Haven't these guys done a terrific job? We'll talk more about them in a minute. Let's go back to Grant. More action in the pits.
Yes, the 3 cars down here in the pits. Dean Herridge, what is the problem?
Well, we're still getting to the bottom of it at the moment, but it looks like a fuel-related issue, either a hose problem or a pump. We're trying to rectify that at the moment. Bit of a shame. John did a great job starting for us. Just circulating really well. We thought we could set ourselves up for a big day, but hope we can get it fixed in the next 10 or 15, get it back on track. Hopefully punch around and we get some good lap times and learn a fair bit.
If you could get it out in the next couple of laps, what would be the team strategy from there?
Look, I think just to circulate, get some laps, learn a lot. This is our first time here from our team point of view. Try and get some good times sort of laid down for the future, I hope.
Thanks, Dean.
Good on you guys, thanks.
Beautifully built car by Maximum Motorsport. The attention on the dry brake refueling system. Spy cam takes us a little bit closer. The dry brake system, Garth, was one of the last things to be installed on this particular car, and Dean's arrived here fresh from a 4th place finish at Targa Rest Point. I guess they can, at least if they need to, take some of the spares off the Targa car. We head back. Here's young Christopher Mees at the wheel of car 8. 21 years of age, this guy. Rookie of the Year in the FIA GT3 Championship. A drama here for Nathan Tinkler, and you can see the wipers are on as the Armour All replay shows us just how wet and greasy it is at STP corner.
You see that just understeered straight off the track, and you can see how wet it is there at STP, whereas going up Mountain Straight here, it's actually quite dry. So one of the real tricks about Bathurst is the changeable weather conditions. It's now the Audi guys react to the rain.
Spycam showing you that Dean Herridge ready to head back out onto circuit. His dad will have been down there, former Australian rally champion Rob Herridge, and made sure that the crews were able to get that sorted. Let's go to Grant with Stephen Johnson.
Well, Steve, you've just seen the car going in at a rate of knots, but the news is not all bad that we're hearing.
No, it's all fine. The car's fine. Nathan just said he hit a bit of oil and locked the brakes up and couldn't stop it. So it's pretty slippery out there at the minute, and the brakes in this thing are a bit touchy at the best of times. So I won't say how he explained it when he went in there, but he said it's all fine, and we'll just keep it going now.
They've got a great friendship, those two, don't they, Nathan Tinkler and Stephen Johnson?
Certainly do, known each other for a long time, and they've done plenty of races here in this 12-hour together as well in that GTP Falcon.
So the wall racing entries, the second one having to wait that little bit longer. We were still at least under safety car conditions when those pit stops were taking place. So race about to restart. Looks like the Honduras entry, the car that James and Theo are sharing with Steve Owen, will restart. They are some laps down after that fan belt issue. We jump aboard with Barton Moore, another Australian driver who's done the hard yards overseas trying to crack it, competed in Formula 3, for example, has raced in Carrera Cup here in Australia, but in more recent time has been doing endurance events just like this.
Just like this, been up to Sepang and a few other races around the world where just trying to get plenty of miles in these sports cars and get a bit of a name for yourself as an endurance specialist, because there are plenty of races and then plenty of opportunities to get it right around the world, and it's not too bad a gig if you can land yourself in a Porsche team driving a GT3R like the VIP car on screen.
Back on board now in Class D. Car Christian de Gostin is campaigning along with Matt Hansen and Peter O'Donnell. The GWS personnel entry, the BMW 335i. Car that's had some good success at this race in the past.
Yeah, won the 12-hour event a couple of times in the past, so obviously now not in outright contention with the GT3 cars here, but certainly a contender for the class win.
Across the top of the mountain, what they're calling Armour All Park this year.
Very, very tricky conditions, because look at the top of the mountain here, it's bone dry. There's no issue with rain or wet track or anything, whereas down at the beginning of pit straight there, very, very wet where we saw Tinkler go off. So these conditions, very, very tricky. You see the Luff, Lowndes, Eddie Audi straight past across Skyline, and very, very tricky to get your run right with this lap traffic. You see, we know the Audi's a very fast car, but you can't pass through the dipper, so it's all about patience and making sure you pick the right chance to get the right passing move.
Warren's doing a great job here, just weaving nicely through the traffic, keeping it tidy. As Craig Lowndes said in our onboard lap at the beginning of the coverage, just keeping it off the curbs. That's another key aspect. This is a 12-hour race. You can't afford to be hammering the equipment in that fashion. Closing here on the VIP entry. They've done very little, the German contingent that have come with these cars to the mountain. We know that Mark Eddy has campaigned one of these beautiful R8s in the Australian GT Championship in the last 12 months. But other than a small wing adjustment and a damper change after Friday practice, they've done very little to these cars. Great base setting arriving here as we look at the replay.
Very, very good car as a base settings. You see on board with Luffy here, up the inside at the chase. And the track's still relatively dry here, so easy to get the inside. It's hard to get your head around not seeing his arms actually shifting gears, just flicking it with his fingers, but nice clean passing manoeuvre.
Dean Herridge there, heading back up Mountain Straight, just over a kilometre up the mountain. And he knows the mountain well, Dean Herridge, having been here before with Chris Atkinson and former Subaru Australia teammate Cody Crocker. The Rally boys were here a few years back in a factory entry. Just behind them, the 67 car, the Motorsport Services entry of Alan Tippy, Stephen Thompson and Mark Madron. On board the Subaru now. Dean only turned 10 laps in qualifying, Garth. He wanted his co-drivers to get as much in the way of miles around the mountain as he could.
Well, it's important that as a unit, your average lap speed is as fast as it can be. There's no point having one guy that's a gun, can go flat out, and then the other two guys lacking experience or lacking time in the car. So it's obviously Dean, we know, has plenty of experience in these WRXs, so making sure that everyone's up to speed before the race starts.
I should say 10 laps in total coming into qualifying. We look here at the Mark Brame, Peter Conroy entry. These guys had a tough year at the mountain in 2010. They've gone away, done a lot of work finessing this car, and they've come back much, much happier with it. As we jump back aboard with the BMW, chasing down. That rain appears to have skirted us just. It seems to be worse back in the city proper, Bathurst City, just down the road.
Now this 12 months ago would have been a battle for the outright contenders, the Evo and the BMW running outright in the previous incarnation, the 12-hour event, but certainly battling just as hard for the class win. So time for an hourly update for you. We'll focus on the classes here. C-Class, Berwick Linton's BMW, heading up pedigree Class C. Class D, brought to you by Fuchs, is the Conroy, Robson, Brame entry that we saw before, and Racer Industries, the boys in that Astra doing another tremendous job. Here's the outright leaderboard. The Audis continuing to battle amongst each other, but the Internationals back in front. The Quinns and Craig Baird third. We'll take a break and come back with more from the mountain.
Roger Largo and Matt Kingsley were regular combatants in the Porsche GT3 Challenge last year. This weekend, they're joining forces, and along with ex-Cup car racer turned V8 supercar driver Dave Russell, the trio form a formidable combination.
Been very nice to hop back behind the wheel of a Porsche, and especially to come here to Bathurst. It's a very, very, very special place, and always never turn down an opportunity to race at Bathurst. And it's fantastic to do it in a GT3 Cup car.
Really special to be part of this team. We've got a good crew around us, and really look forward to going round circles for 12 hours. So that's going to be a big bonus. Bathurst is a special track, and last year we didn't get much running time, but now we can have as much as we like.
Class B features both the 996 model and its successor, the 997. Matt has driven both and believes that each have their strengths and weaknesses.
The 997 has got a few more years of development under it. It's a lot more stable than the 996. But saying that, the 996 is very good in the wet because the chassis is a bit softer and the tyres go up to temperature a lot quicker. Really enjoy driving around the car. It's one of my dreams, and lucky I'm here doing it.
Matt wants to erase the memory of his result here last year, while David hopes his good form here continues.
Last time I was in a Carrera Cup car at Bathurst, I got pole position, so and we're in the 2-minute 10 marks, which was great to do that sort of pace. But look, it's not about just the one-lap flyers this weekend and putting a sprint race together. It's about getting your target time sorted out and being able to just do nice, calm and consistent lap times.
That's exactly what the trio have been doing. Just watching the Shane Smollen entry there. Look at how greasy it is offline. This is coming into STP corner.
Very, very easy, and actually very lucky not to get all four wheels in the dirt, but very easy to just slip offline as we see the Bathurst Audi just slip offline as well. So obviously more rain falling now, as we can see. Certainly more rain on track, and the Team Yost boys have the Michelin wets ready just in case.
Darryl O'Young on standby there as well, ready to get behind the wheel. Christopher Meese there at the moment, the 21-year-old. He's had success in the FIA European GT3 Championship. And here's our race leader. Let's go to Grant in the pits for more on this story.
Well, Mark, what's going through your mind at the moment?
Look, I've just got to keep it on the black stuff, I think, and try and do the best I can. So it seems to be changing every hour.
It's no easy job here at Mount Panorama too, and the car looks very strong.
Yeah, no, the car's good. Like, it's good in the wet. Obviously, it's performing well at the moment. So, look, yeah, hopefully I can get it and just punch some laps out.
Well, Mark's entered the privately run R8 LMS in the Australian GT Championship last year. It's a stunning car. He's the 2008 Australian GT champion, contested 5 12-hour races overseas. This is the replay, the Armour All replay for the pass for the race lead. And once again, experience at the mountain coming to the fore as one of the New Zealand entries, the Motorsport Services entry. Alan Dippy, Stephen Thompson and Mark Madron, the 996 GT3 Cup Porsche.
Now the teams, I think, here are banking on it not actually pouring with rain for a given period of time, because they're not diving to pit lane. Now this is the second or third lap. We've seen the lead Audis keep driving around in the rain conditions. Obviously we know we're going to lose a lot of time if you come to pit lane and put wets on. And then if it dries out 2 laps later, you're going to lose a lot of time coming in, putting slicks back on again. So just the small bits of the sky that we can see there, it doesn't look like it's going to get really, really wet.
Great driving, Dino. You're currently the fastest man on the track.
Some Spy Radio there with Maximum Motorsport, and although they've had those dramas and he's circulating again, I guess the four-wheel drive Subaru coming to the fore in these conditions. Lester, Alan Simonson, Luke Searle. Here's a drama down at coming into the chase. 27 entry, the Alan Shepard, the Shire Conveyance at BMW. These cars have had a great battle. It'll be a long battle today with the Astra, and this is the Armour All replay of, wowee, that was our outright race leader at one point. The Roger Largo Falcon Property Group car. So some of them really struggling in these treacherous conditions. It's not full wet and it's certainly not dry. So this is really testing the drivers now.
As we see now, the GTR coming back to life after looks like fixing that actuator in the gearbox. And if there was ever a car to have in the wet at Mount Panorama,
this is it.
A four-wheel drive Nissan.
Grant's with Melrose.
These things are so technically challenging. The boys won't give up. Like, nobody gives up. And young Aaron said, let me have a look at the wiring. He's got another car. He's pulled the whole bottom of the car off. He's taken the plug off. He's cleaned it. There's a bit of oil in it. He's gone that extra little bit in. The fault's cleared. The computer said it's okay. Tony's going to see if it'll work. Mate, fingers crossed.
The other bit he forgot about is we put the computer in the fridge, so we don't know whether that's done the job either. But she's going, so we're looking forward to get out. Let's see what the car can do.
There's all sorts of car clubs supporting this race around the mountain. Looks like it's happening on track as well. A fleet of BMWs here. This is car 28 in Class D, the Christian de Gostin entry, the car that was has been successful at the mountain before. And we're also in E-Class, the production performance category, and the 68 entry has come from New Zealand. They've done a great job with this car, not only to prepare it for racing at the mountain, Garth, but it's also done some Targa events in New Zealand, so multi-usage for some of these race cars.
Well, that's the great thing about some of these class cars, is they're not only for racing. You can do track days, you can do Targa type events in them.
And the BMWs have strength in numbers in Class E, the production performance category. They're fast, consistent, and importantly, they're ultra reliable. So at the moment in this class, though, they're chasing that little Holden Astra, which has done a terrific job last year, finishing 11th outright.
A great little car that. It started life as the Holden car, one of the 12 hours many years ago. It was bright green, and now Ryan McLeod and his crew have got hold of it and done a fantastic job with it. It's a little rocket ship.
The 26 entry is the Peter O'Donnell GWS personnel car. Bruce Tomlinson, Jeff Fontaine and Richard Gardner at the wheel. replay of the pass. So whilst there's some, I guess they're in the same stable, it's all for one on the track, isn't it?
It certainly is. You would have thought that one would be pretty straightforward, no push and shove.
We should welcome our Slovakian viewers to the broadcast. We're going all around the world with our coverage of the Armour All 12 Hour, and this particular car, we have Miro Konupka from Slovakia, a many times circuit racing champion from that part of the world, who's been lured down under, has not just been competing in Australia but in this part of the world and tackling the 12 Hour at Mount Panorama, which is terrific. Haven't really seen much of this particular car so far today, the Mark Cine entry, but David Reynolds has been doing a terrific job behind the wheel of that car as we see the International Audi pit.
Now this one's going to be an interesting one. We saw there as it came into pit lane, the track was absolutely saturated. So what tyres will these guys put on? One thing that the Audi does have, though, is the ability to adjust its traction control and ABS on the run. So slick tyres might not be such a bad thing.
This is in Class B. Don't forget Paul Tressiter, Shane Smolin and Simon Middleton were doing a very good job in this class. There's some sort of drama there. Airbox, we're being told, from the pit lane. That's the word. So crew go to work, fuel first.
No driver change here by the looks of things, and they're readying what looks like slick tyres. So the smart thing here is to not change the driver, because the driver knows what the conditions are at the track. So if they're putting fresh tyres on, they know what the conditions are.
It's just so unpredictable, isn't it? Let's go to Grant.
Yeah, guys, just further to the aid car, I just had a quick chat with some of the team members that tell me that the driver was reporting that the car was floating around a bit, had understeer and oversteer, and that he was worried that the tyres were going off. So they came in, they slowed down on that last lap, came in and put brand new tyres on them to see if that is going to change the situation.
The aid car, of course, is the Audi being run by the internationals. Darryl O'Young, the Canadian-born, Hong Kong-based racing driver who's done some racing in DTM. Here's the Kondurus entry, the Super Barn Supermarkets entry. We look at the John Bowe Tim Lay entry. This car from Maranello Motorsport. Wonderful Ferrari 430 GT3. And you probably wouldn't get much change out of $400,000 for a car like that. There is a problem, though. And we're told that Tim was complaining maybe of a power steering issue or some sort of issue with the steering in this car. So we'll get an update on that. In fact, we'll keep spy cam happening here for you. Matt Boniface, who we've seen working with John and the Brad Jones racing team before, is in this garage, but some sort of knock-on effect to the steering, we believe. Let's go to Grant, who's with John Bowe.
Well, John Bowe, you're just surveying the situation. A very short stint for you. In fact, you didn't even get out there. The crew had a few moments to take a look at things. What is the story?
Well, at the moment, I think it's Germany 6 and Italy none. 0. I think it's, I'm sure, it's thrown an alternator, water pump belt, so it drives everything. So it drives the power steering, it drives the alternator, and the biggest problem is it drives the water pump. So obviously you can't keep running because it'll seize up. So unfortunately, I mean, it's a long race and you don't give up, and these guys will fix it for sure. But yeah, it's hard to win a race when you're sitting here.
He just loves his racing, JB, even today, doesn't he?
That's right. For a bloke that's retired, he does a lot of racing, that's for sure. But on board now with Bart Moore as we see the Kondurus Porsche, who we know is many laps down with that fan belt problem, trying to fight back.
So that's at least one recovered for the Kondurus team. Steve Owen's been doing a terrific job with that outfit. We know he's had pole at this event before. Here's the class update for you. Linton still leading the pedigree-backed C class. Conroy, Robson and Brame, Fuchs Class D. And the Racer Industry boys are appropriately leading Class E. Here's the outright standings, the Armour All leaderboard, and worth noting the change at the top. Tony and Clark Quinn and Craig Baird now the outright leaders. Look at fifth position too. Cine Reynolds and Dean Fiore. A break and more from the mountain. As we welcome you back to our coverage of the Armour All Bathurst 12-hour race leader in pit lane, the VIP Pet Foods Porsche, taking on board fuel, and we see a change at the top of the order with the green and gold entry, the Audi Australia entry. Mark Eddy, Warren Luff and Craig Lowndes assuming the lead once again. So this is going to be a great struggle, Garth Tander, that will continue throughout the day, because that car, the VIP car, out of sequence, having pitted on the very beginning of the very opening lap.
That's right, and it'll take 12 hours to play out, because we know those outright cars have got to make 12 pit stops. So it's a long race, and lots of strategy will play out, and throw the weather in there as well, and anything could happen.
Barton Moore's been really smooth here. Loses the position. That's the Mark Cine entry. car shared with Dean Fiore, the West Australian, who you know well. And of course, as we take a look at the Armour All replay,
certainly Bart saw him coming there and to run into Falcon Forest Elbow. Left the car nice and wide, and Cine car straight up the inside, got the job done nice and cleanly.
David Reynolds really charging at the wheel of that car. So he's a guy that's back in full-time racing in V8 Supercar in 2011, which is terrific. So the Maranello Motorsport team have done their work. That car rejoins the circuit. Fastest lap of the race to date belongs to this car here, car 8. It was Warren Luff with a 2-minute 10.8361, but they're shaving just tenths off each other at the moment. 2-minute 10s, that's still pretty impressive.
It is very, very fast, and traditionally what happens here at Bathurst is after it rains, the track has a huge amount of grip in it. So now we saw the 8 car come in and put fresh tyres on not too long ago, so a couple of the fresh tyres with the higher grip level, and the guys are pushing on, fighting back from that pit stop.
There's Darryl O'Young standing by, letting both Mies and Mark Basseng do the work at the moment as we take a look at Class C leader, the Bruce Linton-backed BMW, Beric Linton, in a car that he shares with John Modesta as well. And these boys have been doing a terrific job. Beric in particular, lots of miles in production cars and lots of miles at the mountain.
And one of the tricks in a class car is you've got to look just as much out the rear window as you do at the front window to keep an eye on air on the fast cars coming up behind.
So that's the Greg Crick, Barton Moore entry, and David Wall, of course, the lead pilot, the 2-time GT3 winner. Sydney Helicopters giving us the view at the top of the mountain, and we know that David Reynolds has been pushing. Boy, he's pushing hard, approaching the dipper here, and there's been a touch. That's what it looks like from that point there. That's the Donut King Nissan, is it? And it's gone round. So yellow flags on display at the dipper.
Yeah, that's a terrible place to have a car blind there. So we'll have to, if they can't get that car out of the way, we'll have a safety car. As you see here, Reynolds trying to limp the Porsche back to pit lane. And
what a shame. He's been hustling there too. He's been doing a good job, hasn't he?
He's been pushing hard, but you cannot pass there. And we were talking earlier about closing speeds and being patient with the traffic. And David really needed to wait a little bit there. There's a good clean run on the way out of Forest Elbow. You just cannot get up the inside there, and obviously the GTR didn't see him coming, but it's not the GTR's issue. So small mistake there from David with big consequences.
You could look at it in two ways. Obviously our viewers want to know your perspective on it because you're the driver, but the aerial shot there, it did look like with the closing speeds that he was far enough up, but the damage to the Donut King car would suggest otherwise.
Yeah, that's right in the rear wheel. So it's up to the faster guys to make sure that they let the slower guys know they're coming and then pass in clean spots. So we all know that there's not much passing ever taking place at the dipper, and both guys there paid the consequences.
The game of strategy continues to unfold here. So Audi putting the pressure on that VIP Pet Foods Porsche. And the significant thing about this, the VIP car could go down a lap here, Garth. That's probably the most concerning part. And just looking at the lap times, this is where the debate will rage about professional drivers that we see in the bulk of the Audi lineup versus, say, Craig Baird and the family run, the Quinn family, Clark and Tony, and their race pace relative to the front-running Audis.
Yeah, well, Clark and Tony will be the first to tell you they're not professional race car drivers. They enjoy driving cars fast, but when you're racing against professional guys like in the Audi, it's always a battle. And we saw at the very start of the race the VIP car come in and try and play a strategy game. And strategy's like an elastic rope. It opens and closes as the race goes on, and that takes a full 12 hours. And you certainly hope at the end that the elastic band's stretched, but at the moment it's gone the wrong way. And now those guys are lapped down. They need to play it smart to try and get back on the lead lap.
500 horsepower, mid-mounted V10 in that Audi R8 LMS GT3. As we drift back, Class D, high performance. We know that this particular car, the GWS personnel entry, Peter O'Donnell, Matt Hansen, Christian de Gosten, BMW 335i, has had a great pedigree here at the mountain in the past. A former winning car in the hands of the likes of Paul Morris and Craig Baird, for example.
Gary Holt. So those guys, that car's done plenty of miles around Bathurst and certainly knows its way around here. And BMW Heritage will keep it going for hours on end.
Another BMW, the 68 entry, another entered by Motorsport Services Limited. Glasson, Roderick and Aaron Harris heading up the mountain. 1 kilometre run up the hill and 1.9 coming down the mountain.
Certainly, Rusty, when you run around this track with a bit of fitness work, it's much easier doing the 1.9 coming down than it is doing the 1K going up.
I'll leave that to you. Listening to the car at work, heading into that section up the top that they call Armour All Park this year. This is another of the cars prepared by that outfit, the 67 entry to the right of your screen, the 996 GT3 Cup entry. And we head back down to pit lane because this is a crucial one. Race leading car.
Driver change, Mark Eddy about to jump in the car as Luffy jumps out. So critical time now. Mark Eddy is the non-seated driver in this car, but as we know, he's done 1 million miles in this Audi throughout the year, so knows the car very well. See Luffy and Craig Lowndes talking strategy. I'm sure those guys are all over it.
Attention there, I think, to the gearbox of the Porsche, which I think is the Paul Tressida entry with Shane Smollen and Simon Middleton. So disappointment for those guys who were expected to be real front runners in Class B, the GT3 entry, but at the moment it's the Falcon Property Group entry for Roger Largo. Speaking of Class B, this is the car we mentioned before, Scott O'Donnell, another of the Motorsport Services Limited entries, and unlike the 997 Garth, still running the H-pattern gearbox.
Yeah, that's the difference between the 996 and the 997. One of the main differences is the gearbox, and 997 Porsche Cup car sequential gearbox, the older 996 still running the H-pattern, so little thing that tricky to keep getting used to is going back to the H-pattern gearbox.
The other thing that they're having to get used to is the fact that the sun is out at Mount Panorama once again, those changing conditions. An update on the class standings for you. Century Batteries Class B, Roger Largo, Matt Kingsley and Dave Russell doing a terrific job there. Class D, Conroy, Robson and Brain, the top production car. They're having a great outing in 2011. And on the Armour All outright standings, it's Young, Basseng and Meese back on top from Eddy, Lowndes and Luff. But there's a lot more still to come here at Bathurst.
The Germans aren't the only internationals looking for Bathurst glory. New Zealand-based Motorsport Services finished 12th outright last year in this BMW. And this year, well, they've expanded to 3 cars across 2 classes to cater for the growing Kiwi interest in this 12-hour event.
We had a lot of interest in bringing more cars over, and we just couldn't do it. But there's so much interest from New Zealand in running this race. It's great.
Preparations for the Bathurst Assault started well over 6 months ago. And although they're flying the flag for New Zealand, the team is playing down the Trans-Tasman rivalry.
There's quite a few Kiwis up and down the pit, so everyone's been playing nicely so far.
Plenty of interest in this race back in New Zealand.
Yeah, absolutely. This is, I think next year there'll be a lot more people here. Coming over here, we just get inundated with how do you do it, how easy is it, how can we get there, and I'm sure we'll see 10 competitors next year.
The team and its drivers are no strangers to endurance racing, and team manager David Taylor says there's something special about this event that keeps them coming back.
I think having a track that you can't just readily go to and test makes it so much more attractive for people to come over here, run the event. They know that quite a few of the other teams or none of the other teams have spent the last 3 months here testing every day. Plus it's a street course essentially still, and a big run up a hill. Everybody likes driving up and down hills. It's just something that's great to do.
A great international flavour here at the Mountain for the Armour All Bathurst 12-hour, and in 2011 we're pleased to have a bit of an Irish influence once again. Hector Lester's Ferrari, also shared with Luke Searle and Alan Simonson this year. Simonson, as we detailed earlier in our coverage, has a huge amount of experience nowadays when it comes to endurance events, not just the V8 race here in October, but events at places like Spa and Nürburgring of this nature going.
Does a lot of GT racing, not only in GT3 but even GT2 and GT1 now, so some seriously fast cars. And Hector Lester's been to Australia a few times now with his Ferrari and loves coming out here, does a great job, and good driving combination in this car.
Remember, they had a red flag issue for this car earlier in the race as a result of a problem with the passenger side door and also a small electrical problem for that car, but great to see them continuing. And that's one of the things about this event, is the fact that because it's 12 hours, you need to have that tenacity to come back from problems of that nature, don't you?
You certainly do, Greg. That's one of the great things about 12-hour racing. But down to Grant in the pits, who's going to show us a very special side to the 39 car.
The 39 car's been down here in pit lane with a gearbox change. Let's go under and see if we can find out exactly where they're up to at the moment. They have pulled out the old gearbox. The new box is going in, and we're being told by the team there's about 10 minutes left before they drop this car back down, which has been a sensational performance to get this Porsche gearbox out and back in such a short time. So that is the latest at the moment. You can see a few nuts and bolts going on as they remount the gearbox, and in the next 10 to 15 minutes this car will be back out on the track in race conditions.
And Grant, we may have a safety car situation. Indeed we do. So race director has called the safety car out again as a result of that car, that stricken Corvette, the Paul Freestone Michelin-backed Corvette, also shared by Hayden Pullen and David Cedars. It's been a rough weekend for those guys. It was terrific to see them at least get the car out on circuit. Now, this is a real issue for a contender in this race. It seems as though they can't get the car started. So you can't, I don't think you can clutch start it under the rules from memory in pit lane. They'll have to try and refire it in the garage. That may be the problem. In the meantime, the Internationals take service. Okay, this is the story. We're told they've been able to get it going again and hopefully not lost a great deal of time. The helmet looks like Craig Baird back at the wheel.
That's right. So we've been saying all along that 12-hour racing, you've got plenty of time to get back in the race. But when you're racing for outright victory against the factory Audi team, you cannot give them a head start.
On board the Penfolds Audi safety car, we should point out too that it's a very strong German contingent running the Audi operation here, but they have had some Australian influence and or local influence, I should say. Paul Sepranich, who's had a lot of experience in V8 supercar and a lot of experience with international teams. He's been here as kind of their manager on the ground, coordinating things, getting that operation ship-shape when it arrived in Australia, and it's worked. Boy, it's been a tremendous performance. They've arrived here and been so dominant from the moment they've rolled out of the transporter. Underway and racing once again as you rode with the safety car. Restart here now. And the Leicester Ferrari will lead them. And it's been a titanic battle up in front. It's the Audis that are leading the way for now. Here's the Mark Eddy, Warren Luff, Craig Lowndes entry. To the right of your screen, that's the leaders in the production car class at the moment. The Mark Brain, Peter Conroy entry, a car that they share with Anthony Robson. And they've come back with that car much stronger in 2011. They're working, in fact, with Jeff Forshaw, who was a good production car racer in his own right and has worked for Neil Bates Motorsport for many years. And he's worked on helping to tune that car, helping to iron out some of the issues, and they are so pleased with it.
Certainly are. As we see now, the German Audi, or the black Audi car 8 up the inside of some of this lap traffic, trying to get back in touch with the 7 car, because 7 cars at the front of the field, it's in clean air, it's got no traffic to worry about, it's charging away. So although we talk about a 12-hour race, having plenty of time for strategy and things to play out, track position is still king, doesn't matter how long the race is.
Awesome looking car, quite a stealth machine. It doesn't have the same top speed going up or down the mountain as we would experience in a V8 supercar, but in the order of about 2 seconds quicker, that Audi across the top. Just dynamite.
It's an amazing car across the top of the mountain, as all these GT3 cars are. The Porsche on screen, the VIP car, has a huge amount of downforce, much more downforce than the Cup S car we've seen here in Australia in the past. So that's why we can see it going with this Audi at the moment. And Beardo back in behind the wheel, he'll be trying to get that lap back now. So this is a real opportunity, very key part of the race for the key players.
He's good like that, Craig, in these sorts of situations. The moment that helmet goes on, our Formula One co-commentator loses that easygoing nature, and he's chasing hard here. 480 brake horsepower, 353 kilowatts, that magic-sounding 6-cylinder boxer engine, 4-litre power plant. And look at the attitude of the car as it came into the chase. He's really on it and closing the gap.
Yeah, certainly Craig's identified this as a key opportunity for them to get back in this race and part of the outright contention on the lead lap. So ideally what the VIP car needs is get in front of the lead Audi and then a safety car to come out straight away. That way you get your whole lap back free of charge. So very, very much a key part of the race. And Beardo pushing on, you can see the attitude in the car.
For Tony and Clark, we should actually give them some credit as well. They may not be professional racers like, say, a Warren Luff or a Craig Lowndes or a Craig Baird for that matter. He's taken the lap back, so well done to Craig Baird. But when you look at the difference in lap times relative to Craig, it's not all that much, but over the course of an hour or a decent driver stint, it does add up.
It does add up, and that's what 12-hour racing, endurance racing is all about. We see the Audi there, just runs a little wide, drops 2 wheels in the dirt, and that's all it took. We knew Baird was on a charge, and he was going to take any opportunity that came his way.
So dramas here for the Barton Moore, Greg Crick, David Wall entry. David will be competing we should say, stepping up into the Fujitsu V8 Supercar Series for 2011, having won the Australian GT Championship the last 2 years on the trot. And I think that's Greg Crick at the wheel by the looks of it. And we said earlier in our coverage he was a little disappointed, Greg Crick. He's very good in these kind of races, but this, unbelievably, despite all sorts of machines that he's raced over the years, this is the first time he's ever competed in a Porsche. And most of the time he spends driving in a Viper, so you couldn't get much different from a V10 front-engine Viper into a rear-engine Porsche Cup car. So this team continued to duel just as they did in qualifying. There wasn't much in it. 3/10 separated them on that new qualifying format, an aggregate system where they add the 3 fastest laps for each driver entered per car to determine or to sort out the grid. So the internationals really, considering they haven't had a lot of experience at Bathurst, have done a pretty good job. What a shame. This is for Production Performance Class E, the 27 entry. Alan Shepherd, Garth Duffy and Paul Stubber. Paul, as you know, Garth has a lot of experience, particularly in historic touring cars, and has some nice machinery in the shed.
Does. Very, very fast Camaro back at home in Perth, as we see here, a replay. And it looked like contact there from one of the faster class cars has taken out one of the slower class cars.
So safety car, the Penfold Audi, is back on circuit again. These guys are really playing the game, aren't they, in terms of maximising or using these safety car situations?
Well, they got lots of pit stops to make. Those outright 2010 spec GT3 cars got to make 12 pit stops over the course of these 12 hours. So anytime a safety car comes out and it's not within a 10-lap window of the previous pit stop, they're going to be in then taking that opportunity.
Fans continuing to enjoy the sunshine at the mountain. The long-range forecast suggests a heavy thunderstorm before this race is over. Here's an update for you, and we should say on the Altenzo GT3 outright class board, Young, Baseng and Mies are back up the top there. Beric Linton continues to lead the way in Class C. There's the Armour All board for you, the outright positions. Craig Baird is chasing hard, keeping right in the game. As we take a break, and we'll have more from the 12 hour on the other side of this. Nice to have you with us here in Australia on One, or wherever you may be tuning in right around the world. This is the Armour All Bathurst 12 hour. You're looking at the leader in Class B in this endurance race. These guys have been ultra consistent, Garth Tander, from the very outset. The Falcon Property Group, Roger Largo, Matt Kingsley and David Russell. We have a look at another of the cars in this class, and we talked before about Miro Konupka from Slovakia, a 7-time winner in circuit racing terms in that country. We've got viewers from Slovakia tuning in as well.
Good to see you've been doing your research on the Slovakian racing championships over there.
He in fact drove with Karl Reindler in a Porsche in 2008. Best result in the FIA GT is 3rd in class at Zhuhai in 2004. You can see from the onboard there, as they continue to work, an icebox on the right-hand side, just in the passenger section of the car there. That'll be another feature, particularly after all the hot weather we've had here in the lead-up this week. A little cooler on race day, but it's still hard work for the competitors.
And that cool box, Rusty, is for the cool suit, which we see quite commonly nowadays in V8 supercar racing. But with these 90-second pit stops, the teams have obviously decided that it's not such a big deal to get the tubes connected and disconnected during part of the driver changes.
So we watch, well, the focal point being the Audi, the Australian team. In the background there, you saw the lead car in the production class. Mark Braham, a guy who was brilliant in production cars and has been over the years. Great to see him back behind the wheel. Peter Conroy, of course, and Anthony Robson. In fact, Mark Braham's daughter actually did a drawing of the car in the early hours of yesterday, and they've put it on the back of the seat as a bit of a good luck charm. Dramas here. Let's go to Grant.
Yeah, not a good look about car 12 being pushed into the garage at the moment. Fiore, and you've got Reynolds and Mark Sini in this car. We've got a driver change going. It looks like Dean Fiore stepping in. Mark Sini standing here with us now. We'll try and grab him. Mark, car pushed back in the garage. What's the story?
I think from the accident we had earlier, the brake pedal's now very spongy. You're taking sort of three or four pumps to get it on, and gear selection's getting difficult.
Well, that wouldn't be nice across the top of the mountain, Garth.
No, certainly brake pedal going to the floor is not uncommon in endurance races, but not at this stage of the event. So the team's obviously identified that they need to get under the hood and get underneath the car and have a look at that brake issue. And then the gear selection thing, the Porsches have a cable gear selector that goes to the rear transaxle. So whether or not some heat may be starting to get part of into that cable and starting to restrict the gear selection.
And that is a Lotus Exige S pointing the wrong way. That looks like it's at the top of Mountain Straight, Griffin's Bend. Adam Gowans, the very successful Aussie racing car driver, one of the trio entered in this car, and I think they're just trying to roll it out of harm's way, some sort of issue. Let's have a look here. Oh boy, big lock-up and crunches the wall there.
Very, very lucky not to make heavy contact with that Porsche also as it tried to turn into the end of Mountain Straight. And we saw there the Lotus going the wrong way down Mountain Straight, but trying to get into that little gate and getting out of harm's way, as we see now, car 66, and we'll have a look to see if there was any contact on the rear of that car.
Good that you bring up the subject of contact. Let's see if we can shed some light on what happened to Paul Stubber before when he retired at the top of the mountain. Grant's with him in pit lane.
You've been up and seen the stewards. How did you see what transpired and who were the people that caught up in that incident?
I know I held the gentleman up, and that's just a passage of track that you can't really get out of everyone's way in a hurry, but I squeezed the brakes going into McPhilmy Park, stayed to the right as far as I could, and really the next thing I saw out of my peripheral vision on the left, and the impact I got from the left side just sent me careering off into the wall.
Well, Garth, as we watch this pit stop, how did you see that one unfold?
We could certainly see or hear there was contact between the two cars, and as Paul Stubber was saying, it's a tricky part of the road, whereas you really can't go too wide through there, and the faster cars, we spoke about it earlier, just got to be a little bit patient. The next corner after McPhilmy Park is a big long run to Skyline where there's plenty of opportunity to get past.
Oh, wow. Car 28, Class D, high performance, the GWS personnel entry. And we've got more issues for the Donut King Nissan. Peter Lemus, Tony Alford and Mal Rose, this trio. Transmission issues again, we're told. They do a great job with their endurance events overseas. They've taken V8 supercars to the Nürburgring and all sorts. So here's the 12-hour update for you at the end of hour 7. Classes first, Linton and his team continue to lead Class C, backed by Pedigree. Fuchs Class D is Conroy, Robson and Brahim. And look at that, a change in Class E. So that battle between the BMW and the little Astra continues. At the top, Oyoung, Baseng and Mies are there from Quinn, and Baird. Wall, Crick and Moore, despite that incident before, are still fourth outright. Just past the 1,000 kilometre mark in the Armour All Bathurst 12-hour. Class leaders in GT3 Class B. Falcon Property Group continuing to do a terrific job. Roger Largo, Matt Kingsley, David Russell in the 997 GT3 Cup entry. If you just tuned in, Garth Tander and Greg Rust with you. Here's the leaders in C Class. Beric Linton's crew in this BMW continuing just to circulate, be ultra consistent, and that's going to pay big dividends at the end of this race.
Certainly will, and one of the things about endurance racing is tends to be the German cars always end up at the front of the field at the end of the day, and that's because they go around lap after lap, hour after hour, and they're built for this type of racing, and this M3 as well as the Audis and the Porsches at the front, they just keep going.
Matthew McKeedon and John Modesta also sharing this car. And in behind them, we can see the East's Caravan Park contender in Class D. They're chasing these guys, though. Mark Brahim, Peter Conroy, and Anthony Robson. They were so relaxed at the conclusion of qualifying. Fastest production car. There was not much in it. 3 or 4 of them within tenths of seconds as the Audi tries to find a way past the entry of Shane Smollen. This has been a terrific battle in Class E as well. These guys have led for the better part of the day. Some youngsters, Chaz Mostert, Ash Walsh, and of course Ryan McLeod's younger brother doing a great job as well.
Yeah, both Walsh and Mostert here getting laps prior to coming back later in the year in the Fujitsu series and V8 supercars. So having never driven a tin top around Mount Panorama, the best way to go about getting laps is do a 12-hour race, and the most economical way to do it in the Holden Astra.
I think Jared McLeod at the wheel maybe of that car at the moment as we look at what's going on in Audi land. This battle continues and maybe just starting to get slightly different strategies creeping in. Not a massive amount of difference in it, but they are taking a slightly different approach as we look at the internationals. Mark Baseng trying to better the mark set by, now this is interesting here, Christopher Mies. Now this is a brake pad change, so some were saying they might be able to, in some cars, get the entire 12 hours without the need for new pads.
I would have thought they could go the full 12 hours without a pad change, but obviously the Audi team have decided that safety is the better part of valour and actually just throw a set in. Having not been at Bathurst before, they don't have any previous data about what sort of brake pad wear is like, so they'll pull that pad out and measure it and see where they're at.
Grant?
Now, I can tell you that the team were doing it pretty much as a precaution. The brake pads were just down under what half brake pad was left on the pad itself. Now, they tell me the second half of wear seems to go a lot quicker, and I've been able to dash out the back and grab one. You can get a close-up look of exactly how much wear is left on the pad. That one's well and truly about the 60% wear mark. It's got about 40% left there, they're telling me reliably. But now that they've got new pads in it, they are A-OK right to the end of this race, and it should be very, very strong.
He's got to be a little careful holding brake pads like that these days. He nearly burned himself there a year or two back. O'Donnell, Clennon and Kanupka in Class B, the 996 entry. And there's the David Reynolds, Dean Fiore, Mark Cini car. Moving down the inside. Mark Cini entry, of course, in the GT3 outright Class A. You can see the speed difference there between the GT3 Cup S. Already a good distance up the road.
Those guys fighting back from earlier contact with the Donut King GTR, so and also a few brake issues. So 12-hour event, there's plenty of time to fight back, but it's hard when you're fighting outright with the Audi, factory Audi team and that VIP Porsche team.
Great work by Tressida, Smollen and Simon Middleton, the crew from Wall Racing, getting them back out there. VIP car starting to come under pressure once again from Mark Eddy, Warren Luff, and of course Craig Lowndes.
Also a bit of lap traffic there altering the gap. So that's one of the things is when you're racing these outright cars is you've obviously got to monitor your opposition's speed, but you've also got to monitor where you are on the track relative to the slower cars and hope that they don't slow you down too much in key areas of the circuit.
Warren back into a full-time gig in the main game of V8 Supercar. He's with Grant in pit lane.
What are you watching on TV, mate? Isn't there anything better on?
Well, hopefully I'm watching Lowndesy take the lead back.
He's doing a good job, and he's managed to make up a mile of ground there too. You must be pretty confident. I know it's still a long way to go, but the car looks strong and the driver combination is fantastic.
Yeah, look, the car's very strong, but obviously there's still 4.5 hours to go, so we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. Looks like here goes Craig up the outside. No, I don't think Quinny wants to let him pass. So, look, there's still 4.5 hours to go. There's still a lot of racing to happen, but we're very happy with the pace of the car. The team are doing a sensational job, and Craig's out there doing what he does best.
And he'd be feeling happy at the moment because the back of the Porsche is dancing around too, which is a good indication. You've been in situations like this at Mount Panorama. What do drivers think about when they can see the car in front dancing over the track?
Well, when you can see the car in front moving around, you know that their tyres are sort of starting to obviously get a little bit second-hand, and I can tell you now there's no one worse that you want to have behind you than Craig Lowndes. He's the king of being able to monster the back of a car and be within inches, but never actually touch. He's a definite gentleman racer, but I tell you what, he's not a good person to have behind. So I think Clark Quinn is going to have his mirrors full of Audi right now, and hopefully very shortly he'll be able to look at the back of our car.
It's the first race down under for Audi since the start of the new millennium. You may recall Dindo Capello and Alan McNish winning that race of 1,000 years in Adelaide at the end of the year 2000.
You see here now, the Lowndes Audi's dropped right off the back of the Quinn Porsche.
Dude, that was perfect. I do believe that Lowndes went into limp mode because he was tucked up behind you, getting hot air, and probably overheated his engine. Anything else you want me to do? No, you're doing a great job, mate. Really awesome. Yeah, just keep it up, dude. You've got about 10 laps or so to go.
So the motivation for Clark Quinn, and in the meantime, we're being made aware of the fact that a temperature issue may have crept in for Lowndes, so the crew just making him aware of it, telling him, hey, this has got to last to the end of the race, so just look after the car. Back to the Maximum Motorsports Subaru, heading up the mountain. Dean Herridge, former rally driver, still rally driving, in fact, in tarmac events these days. Contested Targa Rest Point in Tasmania, then came straight from Tassie to the mountain, while his dad and some of the Maximum crew did the long drive across the Nullarbor from their base in Western Australia, where they were subjected in that truck to about 50-degree heat, so they were pretty pleased to arrive here at Bathurst, only to find out, of course, it's been searing hot here as well for much of the week. It's been in and out of pit lane, this car, with some fuel issues. One of the things, some beautiful craftsmanship in this car, some things that Rob Herridge has actually built himself, but one of the things they've had to install, of course, is the dry brake refueling system, and that's had some teething issues. They haven't been able to resolve it quite yet.
We saw earlier in the race the Maximum Motorsport guys in the back of the Subaru looking at the fuel tank. Not a bad place to spend an afternoon watching cars go by, top of the mountain.
Exactly. At least they don't have the umbrellas up at the moment, although some suggestion that we may get a heavy downpour. And now even the latest update saying possibility of hail within the last half hour or so of race finish. So the mountain is throwing everything at these competitors, and it's happened in the production car class as well. What a shame. Doesn't sound good at all. Maybe a turbo problem, although the reverse lights came on in the car. Let's just listen here. Terminal.
The car is broken down. I've lost my clutch.
So it's a clutch issue.
I don't know if I'm on fire, mate. What do I want me to do? I'm on fire.
And that's the race run, so he'll be out of there. He's pulled it off the race line. One of the 300 officials that are working so hard at this event will be able to hopefully extinguish that pretty quickly. The shame of it, I used that word before, Garth, is that these guys have been fighting with the BMW and fighting with the Conroy car. That flame is the fire's getting heavier.
It is, and yeah, now that's going to start to take hold. So that's a shame for these guys. And we could, unfortunately, when you're driving the car, we saw the flame from outside, but you don't know what's going on. And we actually caught a vision of the dash where the dash had gone out completely. So something quite terminal has taken place in that car, obviously.
And naturally, everyone's keeping an eye on what's happening in pit lane. So people taking the opportunity to pit. Replay. Thanks to Armour All. And there's the shot of the rear view lights. At first we wondered if it was engine-based or something else, but as you heard the driver say, their transmission or clutch problem of some sort. So Armour All board will do the classes for you first. The Century Batteries Class B, still Largo, Kingsley and Russell. They have been there in that 997 GT3 Cup car pretty much all day. Conroy, Robson and Brame, a little bit of breathing space, but the BMW will still chase very strong. Eddie, Lowndes and Luff are back on top of the order, and Baird keeping that Porsche right in the mix. Let's take this opportunity to go down to the car owner, Alan East.
A spectacular finish for the East Holiday Park Mitsubishi Lancer here at Bathurst this weekend. Not what Alan East, the team owner, was hoping for in his fourth appearance here. Al, that would have to be one of the more disappointing ways to end the Bathurst 12-hour.
Very disappointing, mainly for the effort the crew's put in. We've thrown everything at it. We had a strong car up until that point, and we could have run right to the flag if everything held up and probably won our class. So that's what we were aiming for. Unfortunately, it didn't happen this time. We will be back, so.
Al, the car was looking so strong all day. Can you tell us exactly what caused the fire?
We think the gearbox split and dropped the oil onto everything hot underneath, and that's where the fire started, and that was it, over. The gearbox jammed up, and yeah, so.
Not much a driver can do about it at that point.
All he could do is get out and bucket the car, so.
But the Lance is fixable and we'll be back?
It's fixable and we'll be back.
It's all just a little bit of charred remains on the bonnet, but we'll see you back soon. Thanks, Al.
Thank you.
Well, we've seen lots of interesting sponsors on cars over the years, and here's one with quite an interesting message, ironically strewn across a big American Chev. Paul Freestone down here this weekend. Tell us about this rather interesting message on the bonnet here.
Well, I think that what concerns us the most is the billions of dollars taxation money all around the world in grants, and we've actually got nothing to show for it. I mean, climate change or global warming, or to try and say that CO2, one trace gas, is doing damage to the planet. It's just an ideology, and there's actually no scientific evidence they can back it up. I think everyone needs to be informed, because at the end of the day, what do we all know about weather?
It's a good point nonetheless, and thanks for speaking with us today. And this is Paul Freestone and the Corvette running in the GT3 class, saying that a lot of hot air is, well, exactly that, a lot of hot air.
It's Chad, most of that written, spoken and authorised by Paul Freestone, one of the colourful characters of the sport, who's driven a wide variety of motor racing machines, not just cars, we should point out, during his career.
Certainly. We see here at the restart from the safety car period all the marbles and debris coming off the tyres, and that comes from the cars going around slow while the tyres are hot, picking up all the old disused rubber offline, and then once you get going again, the cars move around a lot, very, very slippery, and we can see them throwing off all that build-up, it's called in the industry.
So on board with the Freestone Corvette now in Class C, backed by Pedigree, that class. And amazingly, despite not being able to take the start this morning with those extra parts being rushed in and the crew frantically going to work, they look like, if they keep on current form, they may be classified finishers at the end of today, which is great.
That's one of the great things about endurance racing and 12-hour racing, is that you know, if everything goes wrong and the chips are down, as long as you keep battling and keep fighting, you can always pull a result and always get to the end, and there's nothing more satisfying to get to the end of one of these very long races.
Hats off to the crew in that regard, and all the crews, in fact, up and down in pit lane, because they do work some incredible hours, these guys, to get them ready for the race itself, particularly on the Saturday night. And the largely German crew that are part of that Audi outfit have a few of the team from Melbourne Performance Centre who've done a great job in the Australian GT Championship, working with them this weekend as well. So they're, just by the looks of it, taking it gingerly with the vet back around the mountain. We're obviously back under restart situation, as you can tell now, after that incident prior to the break. And this is what's going on up in front, because the VIP entry still has that rear view mirror full of the Works Audi. Eddie, Luff and Lowndes. Craig Lowndes at the wheel.
Lowndesy here will be trying to get past in a hurry, because we saw last time that the Audi got close to the back of the... Lowndesy's got time to take his hands off the wheel, but we saw last time when the Audi got close to the back of the Porsche that it got a bit too hot and he had to back off, get some clear air and have another run at it. So if Lowndesy can get through quickly here, he'll be having a look up the inside of the chase, but Quinn cars awake to that one. Try and get a good run out of the chase. So Lowndesy want to get this job done quickly so the car doesn't overheat and go into limp home mode again.
Clark's not making the job easy for him. He's quite rightly able to stay mid-track like that and make Lowndes do the work.
You also see in the front of the VIP car a lot of leaves and debris, so with the wind being up around the top of the mountain with all this weather that's blowing in and coming and going, gets in these radiator ducts, and here we go, Craig up the inside, very decisive move. Knew he had to get that done quickly and got the job done nicely.
There's Craig Baird looking on. He's had some good success back home in New Zealand in recent years, both a Porsche champion over there and New Zealand touring car champion.
See there a replay of Craig Lowndes up the inside of Clark Quinn, and both drivers basically knew the job was done, and best to not have any contact at this stage of the race. So from a VIP Pet Foods team point of view, it's important for them to stay in touch in this this phase of the race, because they know that they've had to fight back to get into outright position. There's no point giving it away just yet.
The strong wind you talk about really evident in this part of the track, the top of the mountain, and certainly down, just looking from our position here, down the pit straight as well. So the VIP Porsche makes the pass on Hector Lester's Ferrari. We want to say a big g'day, as we do in Australia, to all of the international racing teams that would normally be competing at, say, Spa or the Nürburgring, who are no doubt watching this and contemplating coming here for the 2012 12-hour. And Audi already talking about making a second appearance next season, which would be terrific. This is for the top spot, the green and gold entry into pit lane.
Just saw the green and gold car with Craig Lowndes at the wheel just have a bit of a hesitation leading the chase, and Craig gave the wheel a bit of a jig. I wonder whether they're very, very low on fuel, and Craig obviously decided the best to get into pit lane straight away. So not knowing the exact intricacies of the car, it'll be interesting to see what's going on with this one.
Grant may have more on this story.
We got to the bottom of the 7-car issue when Craig brought the car back out onto the circuit after making a compulsory pit stop, having the brake pads changed. They were right on target. However, he picked up a puncture. As a result of that, they had to come back in. Now, because it wasn't within 10 laps of their previous pit stop, they're now a little bit behind the 8 ball because it doesn't count as one of their compulsory pit stops. That's why they elected not to put Warren Luff in the car.
Well, just listen here. We've got some radio, I think, from the 29 entry.
Tony, you've done your 10 laps, so if we do get this rain and you feel like you have to come in for wets, that's fine, because we've done our 10 laps, so it'll count. So, but just keep going really well, keep pushing.
See, so they're worried about the emergence, possibly, of this storm, how severe it will be. David Reynolds makes the pass, a bit of damage to the bodywork there, I think, for the 66 or 67 entry, I beg your pardon, the New Zealand Motorsport Services car. But the point for VIP is this could get them right back in the game. They've been struggling to ensure they stay on the lead lap in that battle with Audi. And now the homework I want to do here, Garth, is in relation to the compulsory stop. If that doesn't count as a compulsory stop for the Lowndes car, they shouldn't technically have needed to hold it for the 90 seconds for that puncture. So did they hold it for the 90 seconds? And if so, what impact will that have on Lowndes, Luff and Eddie's chances to win this race?
Well, that's a minute and a half that you're giving to your opposition. We see the 67 car come to a stutter in pit lane, but with Lowndes stopping for a minute and a half, obviously you've been racing your teammate all day in a strategy. You've never been really more than half a minute apart, so giving him a minute and a half head start if you don't particularly need to is obviously not what you want to be doing. But with all that happening so quickly, we're talking about Craig having a small hesitation coming out of the chase and then ultimately coming straight into pit lane. That all happened very quickly. We thought he was out of fuel, but it was actually a puncture that Craig picked up, and not knowing exactly how the car should feel coming in, and all that would have been happening very quickly. So communication-wise, maybe the team made a small mistake there.
The other story too is, will the VIP Pet Foods team get all 12 of their compulsory stops done in time?
Race control to teams. Car 6-7 is to receive a drive-through pit lane penalty for pit stop procedure violation.
Now that violation, we believe, is for push starting the car in pit lane. They can't do that. They would need to do it from the garage. Grant?
Yeah, we just saw the 50 car come into pit lane. You were speculating on, with the blue paint on the side of the car, did it go into Forest Elbow? The answer is yes, and the reason being why is when he put his foot on the brake, the ABS locked up. It just went full hard pedal and wouldn't stop. He hit there with some impact. Fortunately, it managed to correct itself just before he hit the wall, was able to wash off a bit of speed, but they're not 100% sure that the car doesn't have further problems.
You certainly see that Astra when it turned into Forest Elbow going way too fast, and horrible feeling that, knowing that you don't have a lot of room on the exit to have any sort of issue like that happen. And it's quite a common occurrence with these production-based cars that have been modified for racing, that the ABS system, sometimes they can't keep up with what's going on the racetrack, and it looks like a small ABS issue has turned into a big accident.
They've been doing a fantastic job, those young guns. Chaz Mostert, just 18 years of age. I mean, he's come up through Formula Ford, a young Carter, and looking to try and break into V8 supercar already. Ash Walsh, Jared McLeod. That's a shame if that was to be the end to their day. Okay, this is critical here now. So the move by the Audi, the point we were discussing before in relation to the compulsory pit stops, minimum 12 for these two cars under the rules for this race that they must execute, and they have to be 10 laps apart. Will VIP get all of them done? And Lowndes is marching here. He's trying to recover that lost time from that unexpected puncture.
Yeah, we talked about the 8 car getting a minute and a half head start on them. As we see here, it looks like the Cine car again in some sort of issue. And that's on the run into Reed Park, or before the drop down into Reed Park. So contact on the exit of what we call the tree. And I would say that's going to be another safety car.
Armour All replay.
Yeah, at Solomon Park across the top. It's very, very easy just to step it out too wide, grab the walls. You see, actually the leader, very, very close to that spinning car, does the right thing and gets it pulled up. But that's unfortunate for these guys. They've been charging all day, coming back from incidents here, there and everywhere.
Dave Reynolds was very fast this morning before that contact with the Donut King Nissan. So we'll see a change of driver here.
Another issue is going to be here. This safety car's come very, very quickly after Lowndes' last pit stop. So we knew he had to stop for a puncture, and here's Lowndes in pit lane. So if they're going to try and take this as one of their 12, there needs to be 10 laps difference between your last pit stop and your next pit stop, and we'll need to check whether that's actually taken place.
We know what master strategists Audi are, so hopefully they've got that right. Here's Travis Neal, the spy cam. He's wearing our glasses as the refueling takes place.
See, it's quite difficult getting that refueling coupling on the car as it comes rolling into the pit box. So Travis just waiting the car comes to a complete stop and making sure he gets that connected, because that's one of the limiting factors in these pit stops. Traditionally, it's the fuel that takes the longest to get the job done.
So we'll see some driver changes take place here. What we're going to be interested in, of course, in the next phase of all this is who the final stints will be. Will we see Lowndes back behind the wheel? Will it be Craig Baird? Is it going to be that sort of stoush between some of the fast guys?
Traditionally what you do with these races is you play chess for the first half of the race, just getting yourself into position, and then you get to where we are now, about 3 hours from the end of the event, and you start working backwards from the end of the race. You want to have the best the best guy in the car, the freshest tyres on the car, all at the end of the race. So now all these teams are positioning themselves for the last 3 hours and working backwards from the end.
And Luff is feeling pretty fresh. He'll be behind the wheel of the green and gold entry. We're behind the Penfold Audi safety car. There's the lead production car. They'll be so pleased. Mark Brain, Peter Conroy and Anthony Robson, if they can do it today. They lead, as you can see, on the class board, Class D. Now, Tomlinson and his BMW team, as a result of that incident for the Little Astra, are top of Class E. Here's the outright standings on the Armour All board, and it's the Internationals back on top. Daryl O'Young, Mark Basseng and Christopher Mees leading the way. The VIP Porsche is third, and Wall, Crick and Moore round out the top four. We'll take a break and come back with more from the mountain. Race restart here at the mountain. We welcome you if you've just tuned in. This is the Armour All Bathurst 12-hour, and we could be in for, depending upon safety car and weather, a new record in terms of the total amount of laps completed for this race and the total amount of kilometres chalked up. They won't do 2,000, Garth, but they'll go pretty close, maybe 1,700, maybe 1,800 Ks at the end of this very long and very taxing day.
Well, certainly this year's 12-hour race with these GT3 cars in, we're covering a lot more ground in a shorter period of time versus what was the production car race. And these Audis are very, very relentless. They just keep going all day at a cracking pace. So strategy-wise, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because now all the teams are basically on alternate strategies to each other. And we need to work towards the end of the race and find out who's going to have to splash and dash, who's going to have to do a tyre stop, all sorts of different things.
Grant's in the pits, I think, with Dean Fiore.
Yes, the Reynolds, Sini and Fiore car has come down here into the back of the garage, and Dean Fiore's with us at the moment. Doesn't look good, does it? It's a bit of a mess.
Yeah, first impressions aren't that great, to be fair. I was actually having a bit of a kip in the truck, and then Mark came in and said it's all over. So I haven't actually spoken to David, so I don't know exactly what happened, but that doesn't look that good.
Yeah, I mean, you and he are great mates too, and hang around together, and you don't like seeing that happen at any stage of the game, do you?
No, definitely not, mate. It's definitely a different world, this 12-hour stuff. So obviously he's a very, very talented driver, but yeah, I think you just got to back it off a little bit on the 12-hour stuff. And this is just saying that this was a driver mistake. I don't know. Something may have happened and ended up in the wall. So I don't know, but he's a good kid.
Thanks, Dean.
Thanks, man.
We wish both Dean Fiore and David Reynolds all the best for the V8 Supercar Championship Series, both in full-time drives this year. A number of V8 drivers in this field. We jump back aboard Class D, and it's been a fearsome battle for the production car class in this BMW. Christian de Gosten's car that he shares along with Matt Hansen and Peter O'Donnell. Peter O'Donnell, the entrant, of course, with GWS personnel backing. And it's had such a great record at the mountain. Little wonder it's coming into its own at this phase of the race. This happened on the previous lap as we look at the Armour All replay. Oh.
Just turning in way too early. Obviously realised had far too much speed on and thought best option to head for the curb. And then we're here at the end of Mountain Straight and thought, righto, we'll try that again. Maybe under control a little more, and nicely gets the job done. Nicely settled up the inside, and takes the class lead of Class D.
Gary Holt, Paul Morris and John Bowe winning the race in 2010 in that very car as we take a look at Beric Linton's BMW. Richard Corbett, we believe, has the spy cam glasses on, so let's take that view for you.
You can see the M3 here being a production-based car, still running the 5-stud system, not like the centre lock system you see on the GT3 cars and on the Australian V8 supercars. So pit stops take a little bit longer, or tyre stops take a little bit longer than normal. Quick check here of the pads, making sure there's enough pad material, there's enough brake rotor. Yep, still got a shock absorber in there, whack a new tyre on.
And NASCAR style too, the way they apply the jack under the car.
So the same 90-second rule applies for the class cars as well as what we see with the outright GT3 cars. So certainly, although it looks a lot different to what we're used to with V8 supercar pit stops and endurance racing pit stops, much, much safer than trying to get those wheel studs all started in a hurry.
Don't kid yourself, it's still very busy there, but there is a slight element of calm in those situations. You have a bit more time to play with in the way that the pit stop plays out. This is the leader of Class B, as it's been for pretty much the entire day. Roger Largo, Matt Kingsley and Dave Russell, the 997 GT3 Cup entry. And they drift back, another of the Class B entrants, second for this division at the moment, and the New Zealand Motorsport Services crew will be happy with that. Scott O'Donnell, Simon McLennan and Miro Konupka, the Slovakian, of course, part of that crew, but they're chasing the Ferrari. Let's get more from Grant in pit lane.
We're lingering down at the 12 car that's being taken off the back of the tow truck at the moment. This is the front tyre off the car. You can see it's copped an absolute pounding as it's got into the wall. But to give you an idea of the impact, this used to be a Porsche rotor, and you can see it's not the thinnest thing on the face of the planet, so it gives you an idea of how hard it went into the wall, and as a result, what sort of impact the driver would have felt through his hands at the same time. And that's why this car's out of the race. When you start breaking rotors that thick, you know that you've hit with some serious velocity.
Grant's exactly right. Whenever you go into the wall and you actually break a brake rotor from behind the wheel like that, it's a huge impact, and it's a very fast part of the circuit where young David went in. So he'll be obviously disappointed with that, because he knows these Porsches very well. He's done a lot of racing them in Carrera Cup and things like that over the years. So disappointing, but that's part of endurance racing when you need to fight back from an earlier incident.
Our pictures here focusing on the battle between first and second in A class, and in part they've been the leaders, a large part of in outright terms of this race. So the internationals are in front. The Audi team crunching the numbers as Mark Eddy looks on. He campaigns an R8 LMS in the Australian GT Championship, a great addition to that series last year, and no doubt has had a hand in bringing the full factory effort here to Australia. It's been a remarkable performance so far, but it's far from over. And these guys here, I think, Garth, Barton Moore, Greg Crick, and of course David Wall, who keep circulating and circulating strongly, looking at their lap times, they sense an opportunity to get on the podium here if the VIP guys can't get all of their stops done.
That's right. So still plenty to be played out here with as far as strategy versus regulations versus having the right drivers in the right car at the right time. So plenty still to unfold as the race continues.
These guys would have to be happy with the performance so far today. It's just important now to bring it home. Grant?
Well, we've been talking about the David and Goliath battle with the Lotus. Adam Gowans joins us down here in the pits. This team well, let's talk about the issues so far you've gone through today. We've only got about 5 minutes, so try and keep it brief. But what have you faced, Adam?
Yeah, we've had an up and down day for sure, and the day got off to a good start. After the first driver's stint, the first 35 laps, we were positioned 11th outright and leading our class. During that pit stop, we discovered the boot seal on the CV joint had come off, so we had to repair that, and we lost 9 laps during that incident.
You've got to be very happy with the crew. They've worked their absolute backsides off today to just try and keep it out there. I think it's got more tape than panels on it at the moment.
No, the crew's done a really good job. They're great guys. They're very knowledgeable and keeping us on the racetrack. And the drivers all done a good job as well out there in the rain earlier on. Chris put in a really solid stint there to bring it back home. And then unfortunately I was out there having a bit of a dice with one of the Porsches in Group B and went for a bit of a passing move, and the ABS sort of clicked in the front, and for some reason the rear locked up and sort of spat me into the fence. So that's why all the tape's on the front of the Lotus. And but fortunately we're back out there, and hopefully we can finish the race.
Adam talking about Chris Lillington Price there before, and the stint that he had, and that's a bit of a bigger set of wheels for Adam. He's normally used to the smaller confines of an Aussie racing car, where he's done exceptionally well. 26, Peter O'Donnell, the GWS personnel entry. The drivers Bruce Tomlinson, Jeff Fontaine and Richard Gartner. The BMW, we know already about the dramas that have unfortunately happened for the little Astra in that class. As we take a look, 7 seconds now, just looking at the timing monitor between first and second between the Audis at this stage of the race. It's going to be a great finish. On occasion in the past, we've seen 1-2s for various manufacturers in the V8 race or the Australian Touring Car Championship race. Audi would be delighted if they can achieve that here today, but we can't get excited about that just yet. There is a long way to go.
Certainly is a long way to go, but these cars, this is the type of racing they've been built for. They're built for endurance racing, as we can see here, that will be pan up mountain straight, what 7 seconds looks like on the road. And these cars have been built to go for 24 hours, so Audi wouldn't have come here with half rebuilt race cars. They'll be fully fresh, ready to do the entire race. So as long as they stay away from the traffic, I reckon that's their biggest threat, is that they can stay away from some of the lap traffic and keep it clean. They're on for a 1-2. It's just which way around it's going to be.
Corvette, of course, in the same class as the little Lotus Exige we were talking about before with Adam Gowans. Just listening to the GM V8 up Mountain Straight.
Hard to imagine that a 7-litre Corvette would be in the same class as a little 1.8-litre Lotus Exige, but it's one of the great things about this race is the diversity across the fields and diversity within the classes. And you know, both these cars have had incredible issues to deal with over the day, but they're still going.
And these guys, as we detailed before, they are in fact on course to be classified as finishers. What a fight back. Look at this. So the international car in first for fuel, followed by the Australian entry. Back to the VIP car, chasing so hard, trying to stay on the tail, stay with them and be there when it counts in those final laps, which could be frantic if we are confronted with a hailstorm. Marc Basseng, well, he's had 21 overall victories in endurance events staged at the revered Nürburgring Nordschleife circuit. He knows what places like Bathurst are like and how hard it is to conquer over a long day such as this.
Certainly, and one of the things that we often talk about in endurance racing is fuel strategy and fuel economy and which car's going to get the best economy over the distance. But given that these 2010 spec GT3 cars all have to make 12 pit stops, fuel economy is not an issue. It's not like they need to stretch it or anything like that because they have to keep coming back to the pit so often. And the reason behind having these cars do 12 stops versus the rest of the field doing less, to see whether the VIP car can actually get back in track position versus the Audis. And yes, it does get in front of the Aussie Audi. The older GT3 cars do less pit stops, and the reason behind that is they expect that the 2010 cars are going to be that much faster. So as a form of parity, they have to come to pit lane more often.
And there are a number of balance performance measures that you talk about. There is a 50-kilo weight penalty for this car. For the Audi, for example, for the Porsche, just ahead of it, 100 kilos. The Porsche has a 76mm restrictor, and the Audi limited to 8,500 RPM. Look at the VIP car, desperately trying to make a move through here. The 66 car may not have intended it, but it's held Clark Quinn up.
It has, so we'll see here. I think it's Warren Luff behind the wheel of the Audi now. Whether he can get the job done across the top of the mountain. We've been saying all day that you need to be patient across the top of the mountain, but Warren Luff's done plenty of miles up here, both in V8 Supercar racing and in previous 12 and 24-hour races. So here we go to Skyline. More lap traffic. What's that going to have effect? Here we go. Either side. Who's going to come outside at Skyline? Offline.
Brave stuff by Warren Luff, and gets the job done on the approach to the Dipper. That is remarkable.
So there you go. That's an example of how you can use the lap traffic to your advantage and get the job done.
How is the wheel work as we followed him on the onboard there? So smooth, just beautiful looking car in terms of the way it's performing.
Just speaking to both Warren and Craig over the course of the weekend, they both said that these cars are incredibly easy to drive. As we check the replay from outside the cabin, as the BMW saw him coming, got on the brakes early, and then it was up to Luffy to see if he could get around the outside, and does. And really, the Quinn car played the smart move there and kept out of the way also.
So class update time for you as we get set for a commercial break shortly. Linton again and his team still top of Class C. Fuchs Class D, it's Conroy, Robson and Brayman. They want to be there at the end of the day, and a change as we detailed before in E-Class on the Armour All outright leaderboard. Well, it's Daryl O'Young, Marc Basseng and Christopher Mees, but it is game on in terms of the race to the finish in this one, and we've still got a little ways to go. Stay with us. We welcome you back to Mount Panorama at Bathurst. This is the continuation of the Armour All 12-hour. Started at 6:15 a.m. just as the sun was starting to pop up this morning, and it will finish at 6:15 at night time. Looking at the leader, the new, relatively new leaders in E-Class there, Garth. The Superbarn Porsche of Theo and James Konduras, and Steve Owen making its way past. Owen actually had the fastest lap overall in qualifying terms for that car, and he's a guy that knows how to put a car on pole position for the 12-hour.
Yeah, certainly been on pole the last couple of years with the Konduras brothers, back when it was production cars in their little Mitsubishi Evo. So that driver combination, although they're in a different car to what they have been using the last couple of years, still the same solid driver combination. We see there the little white Astra in the background. They're the guys that are racing this BMW for class lead and Class E, and we've seen all day that the Astra has been leading but then had an ABS issue and went into the wall at Forest Elbow. So those guys are fighting back. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Definitely. And in the background there, coming through the traffic, is the Darryl O'Young Audi with Mark Baseng and Christopher Mees. As we look at car 68 in E-Class. Last year, one of the E-Class cars finished a staggering 11th outright. So for these blokes at this stage of the game, although they may be being lapped by some of the faster GT cars, it's just the ticking the box. Keep it consistent, isn't it, Garth, and be there at the end of the day.
That's right, and to come over from New Zealand and have an opportunity to come back to that same event that they finished so successfully last year and have another run. It's great for those guys. We see here the VIP Pet Foods car straight up the inside. A pretty graphic demonstration of the closing speed at the end of Conrod Straight.
I guess the point we made before was the interest from Europe potentially in the 2012 race. There could be some more interest from just across the ditch as well, with other race teams likely to be here for next year's race. Looks like a pit stop happening for that car. We turn our attention back to Clark and Tony Quinn, the car that they're running with Craig Baird. Clark and Tony, in fact, as we were suggesting before, won't run this 2010 car. They can't under the current 2010 Australian GT rules, so they'll be using the Aston Martin and a Mosler that they have in the stable. This car edging its way up the lane. The 90-second compulsory stop incidentally starts from the moment you enter that final part of the pit lane entry there and you come into the garages.
See on board here, making sure we get nice and close so the refueling hose can reach the refueler. Take the steering wheel off, makes it easy for a driver change.
Oh, looks pretty cool and calm, doesn't it? As I guess as it should be. Even if for blokes like you, the heart rate is up when the pit stops happen.
That's
so,
right. Making sure though, here we see here refilling the drink bottle. Obviously a 12-hour race, want to make sure that the drivers are well looked after through the event. So not only giving the car a drink, but give the driver a drink as well.
That wind appears to have settled somewhat. It was very strong before on the Armour All pit straight. And here's the VIP car now in. So we'll keep our attention on the Audis and how they play. You used the term before, the game of chess. Craig Baird looks like he's back at the wheel of that car, so this is going to be an incredible fight to the finish by the looks of it. If they do all follow suit and put... not that Audi don't have, or don't have just one gun driver, they've got a number of them. So, but the point I'm making is the VIP car rejoins behind the green and gold entry. This looks like being a fantastic finish. They are one lap down in this car now as a result of that pit stop, but it will depend on how this race shakes out. They were the first to stop this morning before the race had even gotten underway.
With Craig Baird behind the wheel and a fresh set of tyres on, I'd expect that they'll double stint both Craig and those tyres all the way to the end of the race. But let's go down to the pits. Grant has a couple of drivers from car 14.
The 14 car, you just saw it come into pit lane. Anthony Robson's in fact here with us right now. He's just hopped out. Anthony, you're telling me this car is just like on rails at the moment.
Yeah, it's dead set beautiful. We've just been driving around all day without a problem. We've got a small issue with the tyre, just seems to be getting a little bit warm on the inside edge, so we're needing to nurse it a little bit, but this time of the day we should be nursing it anyway. But this morning it was a jet, built a gap, and obviously the other guys in our class are having a couple of problems as well, but our car's been faultless.
Peter, fingers crossed at the moment. You're going to be doing the final stint. Nervous?
No, not nervous. I'm nervous that we want the hour to go by, but I'm happy with the car. It's been faultless all day, and we've just got to stroke it home now.
And they're looking good to achieve that. We don't want to get too excited just yet, but if the only drama they've got is a slightly overheating inside edge on one of the tyres, they've had a pretty good day so far.
Absolutely not a bad thing to worry about. Certainly, as Anthony was saying, they'll be looking after it a little bit, but you tend to be looking after the car at this stage of the race anyway. So everyone really, for this stage now, what looks like other than the two Audis are going to be trying to just bring the car home, whereas the Audis are pushing on hard.
Back to Grant with an update from the lane.
Well, let's see if we can clear up this VIP pit stop strategy scenario. Clark, you elected to go for an early pit stop on lap 1. Things looked to be going good. Unfortunately, it didn't pan out that way. Where did it go wrong?
Just in the middle of the day, we got held up behind a safety car. Well, the strategy was come in for that safety car period. But we got caught behind slow traffic. The car in front of us was doing 20k an hour around the track, so by the time we got round to the start, the safety car pulled in, gone. So if that hadn't happened, we would have come in, done our pit stop, we would have been in pit stop up. So I think we got about another 2 more stops to go. If that didn't happen, we would have just done 1 more stop and would have been a sprint to the race.
So with regard to the other teams, you say you've got 2 more to do. Where does that place you? Are you comfortable where you are?
Yeah, we're very comfortable. The Audi have 2 very good teams, and we're comfortable in 3rd. I don't think Walls can catch us comfortably from here, so we're looking good. Craig's going to stay out there for the rest of the race, and we'll hopefully see the end.
Thanks, Clark.
No worries. Bye.
And judging by the attitude on the car, Craig Baird is absolutely attacking here at the moment. It's a beautiful car. No doubt Porsche back in Germany will take more than a little bit of interest in this car and the likes of Barton Moore, Greg Crick and what David Wall have done here. And perhaps we may even see a factory effort from them in 2012. Wouldn't that be a nice thing to have on your wish list?
That'd be a pretty special thing to have one of the factory Porsche teams come out. And certainly Craig, who does a lot of Porsche racing all the way around the world, has some connections at Porsche. So, Porsche will be taking notice that Audi have come out and putting on a pretty good show. And as this 12-hour event starts to gain a bit of notoriety around the world, having a factory Porsche team would be fantastic. Be good to be part of.
$370,000 starting price for these kind of cars, plus as we go to Grant.
Just a bit of housekeeping to bring you up to date with. The 26 car is just about to have its final driver change. Richard Gartner's about to hop in. I had a chat to Richard and said, look, are you comfortable where you're at? Are you going to be able to get this car to the finish line? He says, mate, I'm used to racing in 24-hour races. We're not even at the halfway mark in my view. And I'm not joking, that's exactly what he said.
How are you feeling in the car?
Yeah, no, it's good. I could do another few bloody 100 miles.
Well, you might run out of fuel before that, but you can probably do another couple of laps.
One that bothers me is that bloody Ferrari. He doesn't give you any space and squeezes you everywhere when he passes you.
Yeah, okay, well, we'll throw something at him as he goes past.
Sounds like Bruce Tomlinson at the wheel there, the Kiwi car 26. And I guess the reference there before is as a result of the earlier contact involving Hector Lester's Ferrari and the car of Paul Stubber. So that's uppermost in their mind. For Audi, it's the battle between the leading cars. Okay, pit stops happening for both of them. Both of them will be pitting here now. Remember, it's a compulsory scenario. Look at the way that Luff is attacking, trying to regain as many tenths as he can on the entry to pit lane. This is close.
Well, remember, the 90 seconds starts when the car crosses the line on the entrance to pit lane. So Luffy was there trying to make up as much room as he could so that their 90 seconds was as close to the 90 seconds of the 8 car.
Okay, so Darryl O'Young will do the final stint, in fact, for the lead car, and it looks as though Lowndes will be getting into the Australian entry, we're told. Indeed he is. There's Craig in the background. O'Young, more recently, has been competing in the Independence Cup in the World Touring Car Championship. Look at them, nose to tail. Oh, sideways coming out of pit lane. That's been costly for O'Young on the cold tyres. And Lowndes pounces. In the meantime, the VIP car is already heading up Mountain Straight, having unlapped itself, if you like, but it's only a narrow margin that they enjoy.
Well, they're only unlapped themselves by basically just being in front. They're still 7/8 of a lap, if you like, behind the lead Audis. And Darryl O'Young flicked the pit limiter off. Here we go. We'll see it from Lowndes' car. And actually does make contact with the wall. I reckon that's the first time Lowndes had to go around a spun car on pit exit before, but if they get away with that, they're very lucky boys.
Mark Basseng to the left of your screen, Christopher Mees to the right as Warren Luff. The eager eyes of Warren Luff look on. They jumped, as you can see, on the Altenzo GT3 outright class leaders. We have a new one as a result of that pit incident. No changes for B, C and D, but E-Class, that's up for grabs still. We have a look at the outright positions, and Lowndes, Luff and Eddie are back on top from O'Young, Basseng and Mees. And of course, Wall, Crick and Moore hoping to snatch that final spot on the podium. Back for the final critical part of this race. Let's go to Grant.
Yeah, just looking at Chris Lingington's price bringing the Lotus up into the pit garage. They're about to make a pit stop on board with Stuart, the crewman at the moment, who's helping this 6'5" pilot out of a Lotus Elise. It's not pretty, but it is effective as Richard Mead hops in behind the wheel. Well, he's out of the car, but he had to do it the hard way. And we're riding with Stuart at the moment as part of our coverage.
Little race car, but he's not the ideal dimensions for it, though, is he? A bit like yourself.
Operative word being little race car. You see here, through these great cameras, sunglass cameras, we can see the driver change taking place and how the attendant does the belts for the driver. It's very hard to see down to where your harness is, and you do end up getting very close and personal to some of your pit crew while this is taking place, but certainly that's the quickest way to get the job done.
A spy cam giving you a unique look right up close inside some of the activity in pit lane today on track. That's where the focus is. Craig Lowndes leads the way, but looking at some of the numbers here, we believe there's another stop to come for this car. How will it shake out relative to the international car? And here it is in the hands of Darryl O'Young. And this is just nerves, you would think, at this stage of the game.
Well, I think Darryl's pushing on. He knows that he lost the race lead after flicking the pit limiter off and having a bit of moment at pit exit, and Craig's out the front pushing on as hard as he can as we see him now come to pit lane.
Let's listen here.
Going to keep the gap to Wall. I don't think we're going to catch the two guys in front. Like Lowndes has actually done a new lap record. He's done a couple of 9s. They're just leaning on it really hard. But yeah, we're not going to catch them until they've been it. So we basically need a safety car to stay in it.
So that's the crew radio to Craig Baird from the VIP team, and we see now Lowndes in pit lane, and this is where I think he has to make an extra stop, because when he had his puncture, there wasn't that 10-lap window between his two pit stops, so he has to make what's essentially an extra pit stop.
And that could be game over for these guys in terms of the race, when they still may have enough margin up their sleeve to stay in front of the VIP car, but it would certainly help the internationals.
Certainly will. So this is going to be your full 90-second stop. So when they did that puncture, they took 90 seconds then as well. So it didn't count because it was within 10 laps of his previous pit stop. So a bit of track position was lost there early, and it could bite them later in the race.
And that's what we certainly believe has happened. To update on that lap record situation coming into this event, here's more radio from the VIP team.
Lowndes has stopped in the pits for his final stop, so you've just gone past him. But yeah, obviously we have to make 2 more.
So that gets back to the earlier discussion we had about the need for the VIP team to complete their mandatory 12 stops and do it within the time frame of the race. So they're borderline in terms of being able to achieve that by the sounds of things. They sound confident. They're in now in order to achieve that. Hard luck for the Kountouris brothers and for Steve Owen there a moment ago. Craig Baird will stay at the wheel of that car. Just an update on that earlier situation lap record-wise. Can you believe it? The old lap record was held by Terry Bosanjak, a 2-minute 27.11 way back in 1997 in the 12-hour. It's taken until this race, 2011, to eclipse that old mark, and they've been doing sort of 2:10s all day. The Audi's looking very strong indeed. So the VIP team, the reality. Unfortunately, that strategy, that cunning plan that Tony talked about this morning may not have come to fruition.
Well, even right at this morning, almost 12 hours ago, Tony Quinn said then, we're lucky he got everything crossed, Tony Quinn said then we need a safety car pretty much right away, and I reckon if they had that safety car right away, they would have been right back in pit lane, and that would have been their pit stops done. Clark Quinn said in the middle of the day they lost a pit stop as well with the way safety car. Mark Eddy got everything crossed. Is there anything not crossed in the Audi pits? We'll see the Smolin Porsche have a moment at the end of Conrod Straight there, or the beginning of pit straight. Getting back underway, no harm, no foul. So strategy, although 12 hours, I think got plenty of time to do 12 pit stops, it doesn't seem like we get to the last hour and everyone's cramming.
This is going to be a new race record in terms of the amount of laps completed and the total amount of kilometres as well. Will give you that final mark after they cross the line, but it's looking good now for Darryl O'Young. He just needs to keep it together, along with Mark Bassang, who drove the Audi R8 LMS 6 times last year. He's already contested the 24-hour race at Nürburgring twice with this model Audi, the 32-year-old. O'Young is 30 years of age, Canadian-born, Hong Kong-based. That was Bassang. There's Christopher Mees. Hasn't he done a terrific job today too? Rookie of the Year in the FIA GT3 Championship. And there's Class B. That's a stellar effort for this team. Really, they've come here and executed the plan perfectly. That's what you needed to do to take the class win. Hopefully they can just bring it over the line.
Certainly, they came here with the plan to finish the race, and if they keep doing what they're doing, they'll finish inside the top 5, and I reckon those guys will be ecstatic with that.
And that's another crew that's we can, I guess, mirror the comment for. And these boys, after all the drama of 2010, their unhappiness, they've come here with a car that's well sorted. They've kept it off the curbs, they've kept it clean and tidy, and they look like winning the production car class today. Mark Brame, Anthony Robson, and Peter Conroy, the car owner, who's of course behind the wheel for the final stint. We spoke to him there before. It's just been a brilliant weapon all day, hasn't it?
Certainly has. And Class E, we've seen this battle playing out all day. You would have thought that based on pure speed that the little Astra with the Racer Industries guys behind the wheel would have won the race hands down, but 12-hour racing is all about getting to the end with no dramas, and we've seen this BMW go round and round and round and round, and here it is leading the class with a few minutes to go. So great job by the 26 crew.
The entries, or the organisers, have entries available to all sorts of different makes. They even allow, if you wanted to, V8 utes to contest or to compete in the field, and they've opened it, I guess, as we wait for this final stop now. Time-wise, though, it should be enough for Young to come back out in front of Lowndes. Lowndes is chasing hard, though, judging by the lap times. We heard the boys talk before there at VIP about the new lap record, so he is on the hunt here. And if there's anyone, particularly when they're in it with a sniff of a chance, Lowndes really latches onto those opportunities and goes for it.
He certainly does. You'll have the eyes on here. He won't be happy that he's had to make an extra pit stop, and this stop looks like it's more a splash and dash, so obviously the 8 car had got its 12 compulsory 90-second pit stops done and just needs a bit of a splash and dash to get the job done and get home. So we see it come out just behind the VIP car, and they've always been on the tail end of that lead lap for the last couple of hours now, never really been able to get around and get onto common terms with the two Audis. You see Lowndes here just a mountain straight away from the race lead, so you needn't think that Craig Lowndes is going to lay down here. Certainly I would have thought the Audis would probably be a little happier that the Germans win the race, but we know what Craig's like when he gets the eyes on.
And they've played a little bit of cat and mouse with us in terms of our spotters in pit lane. They said, no, we don't think for many laps now that this lead car would need to pit for a splash and dash. We now know the outcome of that. So the next phase, of course, is David Wall, Barton Moore and Greg Crick. They may not have enough to do it. I think VIP will secure that final spot on the podium. Hats off to the event organisers here. They went to Sepang and spoke with the Bathurst Mayor, to a number of the international teams about coming down, bringing the GT3 cars to the mountain, which is terrific. Not everyone in production car land was happy about it, but many have said, hey, you know what, it's Bathurst, we've got to be there. And I think it's a great start, if you like, for a brilliant event in 2012. No two ways about that. Audi looking like a 1 and 2 as Lowndes closes. Already Mies and Marc Basseng getting ready to celebrate. It would seem as though we've seen it only on very rare occasions over the years that a 1-2 has been enjoyed by some manufacturers. They haven't been in Australia for a decade. The last time they were here, they conquered the streets of Adelaide. Now they've come to the mountain for the very first time with two beautifully prepared cars. They execute a perfect race, a perfect strategy, and Audi will go 1-2 in the 2012 running, or the 2011 running of the Armour All Bathurst 12-hour.
Certainly congratulations to the Audi team and Team Yost and everyone involved with bringing this organisation down to the 12-hour for this year. It's certainly a sign of hopefully things to come with factory teams coming to Bathurst, and these teams know all about 12-hour racing, they know all about endurance racing, they know about getting the job done, and certainly the Australian team of the VIP Pet Foods Porsche of Craig Baird, Clark Quinn and Tony Quinn have put up a valiant battle all day, and those guys will be disappointed they didn't come away with the result as well. But to be on the podium is a great result with their brand new car. To see Bairdo coming over to bring it home, and I would have thought more factory teams are coming to this race in the future.
292 laps in total, a new record, 1,814 kilometres, 1,814 Ks. It's been a mammoth day for these crews. And this team here, they rolled the dice on strategy. They had to. They were carrying 100 kilos of ballast. They had to do a minimum of 12 pit stops. They'll be there on the podium, but it's a strong outfit put together by Tony Quinn. They wanted the win. But it was a tough ask up against the might of that factory Audi team, wasn't it?
Certainly, and as we saw in the introduction, Audi Team Yost, they've won Le Mans only 11 or 12 times, so they certainly know what they're doing, and 6 fantastic drivers that know how to get the job done in various forms of experience, whether it be with the car or at the circuit or a combination of both. So here's Beardo bringing the VIP car home in 3rd place, and like I said, they'll be happy with that, but they'll probably be wishing that for 2012 they'll be looking to go out for outright victory.
And now congratulations to Roger Largo, who we saw there a moment ago, car 23, the Falcon Property Group, along with Matt Kingsley and David Russell. Ultra consistent performance, and they win Class B for GT3 cars. There's Tony Quinn. Clark Quinn in there as well, talking on the left of your screen with Trevor Schumack from Michelin Tyres. Good performance from Craig Baird. He revels in situations like this, and he gave it his all today. And there is our winners in E-Class. What a day in production performance, and also to Class C for GT4. Well done to Berwick Linton and all the crew there.
A couple of BMWs, and we were talking all day about German performance and how they keep going all day, and those 2 cars certainly did.
So let's revisit the final standings as far as class winners are concerned. And now thanks to all the sponsors involved in the various categories. Largo, Kingsley and Russell. It was the story pretty much all day, wasn't it, in Class B. Conroy, Robson and Brame, they didn't have it easy. They had a lot of pressure, a lot of competition across the weekend. But in the end, they get there as the first production car home. And we go to Grant Boyden on the podium.
For Class D, an outright production goes to car 14. Peter Conroy, Anthony Robson and Mark Brame, ladies and gentlemen.
Now to our top 3. Tony Quinn, Clark Quinn and Craig Baird. They've earned some champagne, those boys, but it'll be bittersweet, won't it? Because they really wanted the win. There's no doubt about that. These guys went so close. Craig Lowndes, Warren Luffin and Mark Eddy. Was it that stop for the puncture in the final analysis? The internationals have come. They have conquered. They most certainly had a tough fight with their teammates, that's for sure. A special result for Mies and for Basang and Young.
Audi Race Experience Team Yost just did a fantastic job. Really perfect pit stops. Everything was spot on, and my teammates just drove perfectly. So it was a really great race. At the end, Craig was really giving us pressure there for the victory, and we had to push. So it was a really fun race, enjoyable, and congratulations to number 7 also.
A new qualifying format, interesting parity choices in terms of the balance of performance, but in the end, 12 grueling hours, and the factory Audi team, just as they did on the streets of Adelaide all those years ago, come and conquer. But it's their first win on the mountain. These are the entire outright results for the field, and it's been an amazing day, Garth.
It certainly has, and I can see this race now that's gone to GT3 specifications just growing and growing, and more factory teams hopefully coming down and trying to do what Audi did in their first attempt.
And we hope that you'll join us for that next year. On behalf of Garth, Tander and the entire team, it's bye for now from Bathurst.